Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Muy buenas tardes para los miembros del público. Si necesitan ayuda en interpretación en español, tenemos los aparatos disponibles para ese propósito. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. And we also have headsets available for the hearing impaired. You just need to make a request at our side table here. We're moving on to item C5. This is introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions. Dr. Cash.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Fortunately, I'm going to start off tonight with a very sad report. Just prior to spring break, longtime classified employee Sam Mize passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. Stan was with the district for 26 years, and many of them at Cleveland Elementary School. And then just a few days later, on March 24th, former Santa Barbara High School student Nicholas Johnson, class of 2012, also passed away. He was 19 years old at UCSB and playing water polo at UCSB, and he's a former varsity water polo player at Santa Barbara High School. In response to these two very tragic losses, both schools had grief counselors on hand when students and staff returned from spring break. And I think it's appropriate to start our meeting tonight with a moment of silence in honor of these two valued members of our school community. And I'd ask all of us to please take that moment. Well, thank you. I think both families can appreciate our good thoughts and prayers with them as they respond to these two tragic losses. I'd like to introduce Jessica Klein, an Alta Vista senior, who's here to provide our student report. Jessica.
Hi. This is the student report. Middle College has scheduled their first informational meeting to sign up for next fall on April 16th and May 6th and May 20th from 6 to 7:30 at Santa Barbara City College in room ECC 30. This year, Alta Vista has started a gardening group under the direction of teacher Lauren Gleason. The group meets every Wednesday during lunch and now has added a second planter box. Students plant seeds, irrigate, and tend to their plants, which consists of lettuce, flowers, and other plants. Garden gnomes, as they call themselves, volunteer their time to take care of plants on the weekends and breaks for additional community service. The Museum of Tolerance. LaQuesta's English class took a trip to the Museum of Tolerance on March 19th, and transportation was provided through donations from the Jewish Federation of Santa Barbara. And the trip was part of the curriculum created by an English teacher, Charnel Mora, which includes the topics of tolerance, civil rights, the Holocaust, and modern-day genocide through the study of Rwanda, Malcolm X, and various short stories. Shannon Sadecki and her classroom from Alta Vista's Quetzal program were also able to attend. Thursday, March 20th, LaQuesta had its inaugural Continuation High School basketball game against Rincon Continuation High School from Carpinteria, and the game was held at the Boys and Girls Club on East Cannon Bernardino Street. The group of students from LaQuesta, led by Moy Banks, their coach and PE teacher, won the game 30-21, displaying excellent teamwork and sportsmanship. This game was a collaborative effort between Rincon's coach, Gerald DeHill, Moy Banks, LaQuesta's assistant principal, Brian Jaramillo, and the athletic director at the Boys and Girls Club, Kim Kajar. On Thursday, April 3rd, students and families had appointments for the deployment of the student iPad program, spearheaded by Teacher Technology, Leah Eisen, Norma Lowell. By Friday, students will have their iPads in the class. Teachers have been gearing up for this all year long by infusing technology into the curriculum with the LaQuesta iPad cart and campus computers. LaQuesta Mural teacher Mike Mowers has received a $250 grant from the Village Properties Teacher Fund to pay for the materials to make a Firebird mural for the school, and he will be taking students Robert Fuentes, Ulysses Orozco, and Carlos Ruiz to buy the paint and the panels, and we'll be working on them after school to help the students design and create their artwork. For San Marcos High School, on March 14th, they had an amazing showing at the Santa Barbara County Science Fair. In the Physical Science Division, Grace Piznat received a silver medal for her project, Shells and Acid Ocean Acidification Impacts on Shellfish, while San Marcos had 3 groups tie for the gold medal. Jerison Ball and Matthew Harris for their project, Effect on Frost on a Wing. Emily Imperato and Megan Hollander for their project Beach Changes During a Period of Low Waves and High Tides, and Savannah Benz for purifying water using the thermoelectric effect. Savannah also won the prize for the best in division. In life sciences, Ella Jensen won a bronze medal for thrush and oregano correlation, while Jesse Feinstein won a silver medal for vitamin C repair, UV light-induced mutations in cells. San Marcos also won 2 special awards. Savannah Benz project won the best high school project with recommendations for improving the environment. Emily Imperato and Megan Hollander project won the best high school project in the marine sciences. In Savannah Benz, Matthew Harris, Harrison Ball, Emily Imperato, Megan Hollander, and Grace Piznat have all qualified for the California State Science Fair, which is to be held in Los Angeles. And San Marcos is very proud of its girls' water polo coach, Brian Roth. Coach Roth was just named one of the 2014 Southern Section Winter Season Coaches of the Year by the California Coaches Association and will now be considered for California Coach of the Year. The class of 2014 is getting really excited because prom is coming up soon, and this year's prom will be held at the Montecito Country Club on Saturday, April 26th. Les Mis is coming. Our amazing drama teacher, David Holmes, is retiring this year, and he has decided to go out with a bang. Go see Les Mis at San Marcos from May 1st to May 3rd, or May 8th to May 10th. Dos Pueblos High School, Race to Nowhere, meeting Dr. Cash on April 10th at 7 p.m. International Day is on May 2nd. Week of April 7th is No Texting, No Drinking, and Driving Week. Bell schedule meeting April 11th at 3 p.m., and it's open to all students. Bike to School Day is on May 7th. The Blood Drive is on May 30th. The Talent Show, May 8th. And Robotics Team 1717 won the FRC LA Regionals in Long Beach, qualifying for nationals in St. Louis, Missouri. February, Student of the Month is Jojo Briones, and next month DP is April 12th. Dos Pueblos Athletics, the golf is 3-0 in the league, beating Santa Barbara for the first time in 10 years. Boys tennis is 3-0 in the league, also beating Santa Barbara for the first time in 40 years. Shannon Cleary was named Dos Pueblos Roundtable Scholar Athlete of the Year. Cole Smith and Channing Fisher were named Dos Pueblos CIF Scholar Athletes of the Year. Philip Womble Award winner was Natalie Clapp. And finally, for Santa Barbara High School, the Wall of Fame, our annual Fame Assembly took place this Friday, March 14th, and we have honored and added to our wall Bill Oliphant, John Kim Pio, Jack Hufford, Ward Kimball, and Stephen Benton, and it was well attended and inspirational event. Girls basketball. Our girls basketball team played in their CIF state finals last Saturday at Sleep Train Arena and played a fantastic and intense game, but fell short of the state title in a devastating defeat to Modesto Christian. Their season was full of records as they brought home our very first CIF title, won the Southern Regionals of our state tournament, and made it to their first state finals, and we are very proud of our Lady Dawns. Girls cheer. Girls cheer, our girls cheer squad recently competed in the USA High School Nationals in Anaheim. The stunt team took home a 4th place trophy, and our varsity team normally competes in the novice division, but for the first time ever made it to finals in the intermediate division and took 5th place. The pep rally last week was Spirit Week, leading up to our annual spring pep rally to honor our winter and spring sports and performance groups. It was a beach-themed pep rally with class competitions, performances by dance, cheer, drumline, and madrigals. We had a themed Spirit Day, such as a Tank Talk Tuesday and a Workout Wednesday, which were fun for participants and a great way to increase school spirit. Upcoming events include the blood drive. We are currently planning our 2nd blood drive of the year on April 29th, and this is a great way for students and staff to help give back to the community. Prom, the seniors were very excited to announce that this year's prom theme is Great Gatsby. This year's Santa Barbara High School prom is being held on May 3rd at Fess Parker's Doubletree Resort. And elections, our Executive Council of ASB has been voted in, and our class elections will be held this month as well, and we are looking forward to voting who will represent our class for the 2014-2015 year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Jessica. We have 2 recognitions this evening. First, I'd like Coach Andrew Butcher and the Santa Barbara High School basketball team, high school girls basketball team, to please come forward up to the podium and join Dr. Drotty. I have to say that I've had the pleasure of watching Coach Butcher beat my former high school's teams on a regular basis, and he is clearly one of the best, if not the best, high school girls basketball coach, not just in the state but in the nation. And so it's not surprising that a team of Coach Butchers would reach the level that this year's Lady Dawns did. They made it not only to the CIF state championships, where they played an incredible game. I watched it on the internet, and lost to a Modesto Christian team, which I'm pretty sure recruits only basketball players for their small school. But throughout that, they showed I would say would be true grit and determination. They lost by a very small margin, but I don't think anyone in our community would say that they didn't have the most spectacular year in the history of Santa Barbara High School. And I personally had the great pleasure of watching them win the Southern Section Championship at Azusa Pacifica. I was able to attend that game and sat with the superintendent from Eastside, who you walloped, who was a personal friend of mine. And I have to be honest and tell you, ladies, that for the entire second half, I could not stand up and cheer because you were beating them so bad. It just wouldn't have been good sportsmanship. So, Coach Butcher, could you please introduce your team to the board and to our community?
Yes,
Can you go to the mic, please?
I brought a list. I'll start with the freshmen. Valerie Jaimes, Sophia Torres, Kimberly Gebhardt, sophomores Lil Ponce, Jada Howard, juniors Ollie Mejia, Jocelyn Petitan, seniors, and the seniors were just terrific, Deanna Escobar, Wendy Hernandez, and then our 3 captains, Elisa Cosio Murillo, Michaela Miller, and Desi Coleman.
Coach Butcher, I know that you would give all the credit to your athletes, and that credit's well-deserved, having watched them. I just want to make sure everyone hears an incredible story about Coach Butcher as well. When they awarded the plaque for the CIF championship, that normally is given to the head coach, and the head coach gets to go out in front of the crowd and accept the accolades. Coach Butcher handed it, brought his team out, and his team accepted the plaque. What a great statement about the great year that you've had. Congratulations to you, and I'm sure you have on the board, I know you know this, Dawns. You have, let's see, 1, 2 Dawns and 2 Dawn parents, and so I'm sure they would like to extend their congratulations as well. Oh, and a former, not a former Dawn, once a Dawn, always a Dawn, another Dawn, Mr. Tarina. Board members.
Wow.
If I can introduce real quick, Jess Martinez. Jess?
Yeah.
Carolina Gonzalez. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but they've just been terrific all year. Thank you.
It sounds like you have a good, deep team as well, so we're looking forward to next year. And hopefully you have some great freshmen coming in. But congratulations to all of you. This was amazing. I mean, we were all blown away just when you won your division. And to keep going like that, we're so, so proud of you. So keep it up. I hope you guys get a chance to play. For those of you who are graduating, I hope you get a chance to play in college. And I know the rest of you will come back next year. So congratulations, and Ms. Limon has something to say.
So I only have to say something because I've been following you for a few years. My cousin is Yvette Gill, and so I was at the game a year ago when you lost and you didn't make it, and so that was devastating. I was a fan member, not a board member at the moment, but it's so great to see everything you've accomplished, and even greater, I love all of our athletes, but just to see strong, bold women out there on the court was awesome. So congratulations.
And Dr. Drotti has a certificate that is from the board.
I'm going to give it to one of the seniors here.
Congratulations, Dawns. Thank you. Barbara, have you gotten the pictures you need? Okay, all right, good. All right.
And you will be able to actually see yourselves on Saturday evening at 5 o'clock on Channel 18 or at any time on our website because we now have video recordings on our website. So anytime you want to go back and look at yourselves looking up here, so proud, okay?
Can I say something?
Yes,
I'd
Jess.
like to recognize our superintendent because he backed us up. He's been behind athletes at all the high schools. There's nothing he wouldn't do for them. So we got to be grateful that we have a good superintendent in this district. So my hat's off to the doctor.
Well, thank you very much, Jess. Appreciate it. All right, way to go, Dawns. I think Mr. Becchio is pretty proud. Thank you. And congratulations. Great year. Well, now I would like to welcome Amy McMillan up to the podium. Amy is a 7th grade English teacher and a 7th grade English professional learning community liaison and school tech integrator at Goleta Valley Junior High School. And in June, Amy received the National Board Certification. You should know that this is a long process. It started in October 2012, when she worked to familiarize herself with the National Board Standards for Early Adolescence in English Language Arts. The national standards are extensive, and candidates must demonstrate proficiency in each strand in order to pass the portfolio and testing portions of the certification. There are 7 main strands: knowledge of students, knowledge of the field, engagement, learning environment, equity, fairness, diversity, instructional resources, and instructional decision-making. The two primary parts of the certification process are providing a portfolio as well as assessment center writing exercises. Amy summed up her experience as follows. I definitely recommend this process to anyone who wants to think deeply about his or her teaching practice. There's no doubt in my mind that I have become a more confident and more effective teacher as a result of my national board work. We want to congratulate and honor Amy McMillan as the National Board Certified Teacher. Congratulations, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Well, that was fun. The one-to-one rollout is underway, and I just want to give a brief report. On April 3rd, under the leadership of Fran Wagenknecht, La Cuesta was the first school to roll out the one-to-one program. Adams Elementary School's rollout took place yesterday and today. On April 14th and 15th, Washington will move forward, and then on April 21st and 22nd, Franklin Elementary School will complete the first wave of schools under our one-to-one pilot. This is an important part of our district's strategic plan, and the rollout includes both parent and student orientation. Multiple sessions have been scheduled, and I attended some of the sessions here for La Cuesta. And to be frank, Todd Rickman is at Adams helping out tonight. That's why he's not at the board meeting. Families have signed up to either purchase to own their iPads with payment plans available, or the students check out their own district-owned iPad. I want to remind everyone that we'll be evaluating the implementation of this program. We've contracted with a third party in order to conduct that evaluation, and anticipate that we'll be making a comprehensive report to the board on a regular basis. Finally, today, San Marcos High School, with the support of our community's first responders, conducted a mock accident program called Every 15 Minutes. During the one-hour exercise, 11th and 12th grade students witnessed the horrific outcome of teen drinking and driving when their fellow students participated in a simulated car crash. Part 2 of the experience takes place tomorrow at 10 a.m. in a school assembly. Guest speakers will have first-hand experiences of driving while impaired, and will address the students to warn them about the dangers of drinking and driving. Tomorrow night will be the third and last LCAP regional meeting. I invite everyone to attend, 6:15, Franklin Elementary School. And this concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Cash. Moving on to item C7. This is board comments and correspondence. Board members? Mr. Herron?
It's been extremely busy last month. I can't possibly go through everything, but a couple comments. I have to just say thank you to ICANN. Their schools are now putting on art shows. I've been to 2 at Adams and McKinley. There's 4 more coming up, displaying the artwork of the children participating in the ICANN program. I also attended a music ICANN program and watched the 125 children at Franklin with their instrument course. Believe it or not, they go 3 hours a day after school, 5 days a week. And there's an hour of music, an hour of tutoring, and 45 minutes or so of physical activities. And it's amazing to watch. The control over 125 kids at that day after a full day of school is absolutely amazing to watch. I mean, they just are, what ICANN is doing for our students is absolutely amazing, and I just thank them very much. I did attend the Adelante board meeting last night, and they were able to give their teachers the same raise that we gave our teachers and their staff. And I'd like to thank Mr. Tay for working with them on their budget and on their financials to ensure that they were fiscally sound and able to do that. So I really appreciate all of that. I'll just end it there. It was a good 3-4 weeks we've had.
Thank you, Mr. Herron. Any other comments or correspondence? All right, we'll move on to the announcement of closed session action. We did take action on 2 items. The first was item B3. This was the approval denial of interdistrict transfer appeals for the 14-15 school year. There were 3 appeals before us. The first was number 2014/15-1, and the board tabled that one for further documentation. The second was 2014/15-2, and that was tabled to send back to Pupil Services for an intra-district transfer appeal. And the last one was 2014/15-3. There was a motion by Herron, seconded by Paz, to approve the transfer appeal, and that passed unanimously. Then we moved on to item B4. This was consideration of KC waiver for graduation for students with disabilities. There was one name before us, and the motion was by Paz, seconded by Idelson, to approve the KC waiver for graduation, and that also passed unanimously. And those were the only 2 items for closed session. We will be talking about item B1 and B2 a little bit later on the action agenda. We are moving now to item C9. This is public comments on non-agenda matters within jurisdiction of the Board of Education. It's also a time when we speak on consent agenda items. I'll say right now that we are going to pull item C5, and we will talk about item C5. This is the, sorry, I'm saying C, and I mean E. E5, the approval of sports program agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara. We will talk about that immediately following the consent agenda. So at this time, if there are any public comments on other consent items or non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education.
We
Mr.
have
Herron.
4. First is Melissa Wilkins, followed by Jenny Castro and Marina Morales, a team, I guess, followed by Denise Adams. Can you come to the microphone and sort of be ready when your names comes up?
Can I let my students go first?
You can, yeah, you can introduce yourself, though, as you...
Hello, my name is Jenny Castro, and I'm a senior at Santa Barbara High School. I'm here as a youth representative of the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse and Friday Night Live. I have been involved with Friday Night Live for the past 6 years now. Friday Night Live has taught me a lot of things, including public speaking and how to organize and plan events.
Hello, my name is Marina Morales, and I'm a sophomore at Santa Barbara High School. I'm also here as a youth representative of CADA and Friday Night Live. I've been involved with Friday Night Live since the beginning of the school year. In time at FNL, I've gained friendships who have a common interest in creating a drug-free community.
We're both here to talk to you about our new Committed campaign. The Committed campaign is a new campaign created by CADA. It is a community-wide campaign aimed at changing social norms and attitudes towards underage drinking and marijuana use, engaging the whole community in prevention efforts, strengthening and enforcement of underage drinking laws, and alcohol merchant education.
The goals of Youth Committed campaign are not to change social norms about underage drinking, but demonstrating that youth can have fun without using alcohol, increase the number of youth that commit to living an alcohol and drug-free lifestyle, demonstrate community support for youth who choose not to drink, and raise awareness using social norms messaging.
I'm committed to stay alcohol and drug-free because I've seen the effects it's had on my peers, and I just don't want to be dependent on it or be put in any of those situations because of drugs or alcohol.
I'm committed to stay alcohol and drug-free because I've seen the negative effects on one of my family members, and I want to change someone's life. We want to show our peers that you can have fun without using drugs and alcohol. That is why I wear my wristband as a sign for commitment.
As supportive adults, we hope that you pledge to join the Committed campaign by committing to making healthy choices and to promote an alcohol and drug-free lifestyle for our youth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Melissa Wilkins, followed by Denise Adams, followed by Kenneth Locke.
Hi, my name is Melissa Wilkins, and I've had the opportunity to present to you in the past, but I'm also with the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and they said it perfectly, so I won't add too much to that. But I just want to say that I'm so proud of our youth leaders. We have a group of 15 students from each of the Santa Barbara Unified School District high schools who are part of our leadership coalition. These are 2 of them. And we have a large number of them graduating this year, and then we also have Marina as well as some others who are just joining us, and we're excited to have them continue to carry this message forward. In addition to that, we have our youth service specialists at each of the secondary schools who work with students on the school campuses, and they really give students from all different walks of life the opportunity to engage in these types of campaigns, to develop leadership skills. And what I'll say is our students come from all different backgrounds, but the one thing that they all have in common is their desire to create a healthier community by preventing substance use among their peers. So I'm so proud of them and the work that they do alongside our youth service specialists. Thank you for your ongoing commitment. This week there will be activities at each of the secondary schools to raise awareness. We're using a peer model, which they are both a part of, to really have peer-to-peer education and classroom presentations to engage students in learning and discussing the risks associated particularly with underage drinking, because April is Alcohol Awareness Month. So we just wanted to let you know some of what's going on in the schools, and thank you. And the second part of that is that we are hosting a town hall meeting. This committed campaign is in place of our Free for the Weekend campaign that we've had previously. And really the shift is looking to engage not just students, but the other members of our community, including the supportive adult role models and parents. So we're really seeking out for your participation in committing to support our youth in being drug and alcohol free, and really seeking to engage parents in the conversation around how to prevent underage drinking in our community. So our town hall meeting is scheduled for April 29th. We would love for you all to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Denise Adams, followed by Kenneth Locke.
Hi, my name's Denise Adams. I'm coming to you today as the great-granddaughter of someone who carried the flag into the Battle of Gettysburg and the Battle of Antietam. I'm also the daughter of a 1932 Olympian, Gertrude Spangler, of gymnastics. I'm the mother of a freshman at Santa Barbara High School. I am the mother of a 2010 distinguished Don Andrew Adams, who was varsity basketball and varsity water polo, who got us started at age 3 at the Boys and Girls Club. My daughter got her start at age 3 at the Girls Inc. And I've lived on the east side since February 1980. I've served on the board of Santa Barbara City College Foundation for 15 years as one of its starting members. I come to you today because there's 3 points that I want to make in my 2 minutes and 12 seconds. One, I'd like to request a closed session of the board to discuss administrative matters at Santa Barbara High. On November 6, 2012, I was told that I or my daughter were not wanted on campus. Make note of that. The mother of the 2010 Distinguished John. I was told by the principal I was not wanted on campus. I fear for my neighborhood. Bright, B-R-I-G-H-T, Bright Flight from Santa Barbara High. They're going to San Marcos and DP. It has to be a welcoming, all-inclusive school. That's my first point. Closed session on that topic. Monique Limon, I have a conflict of interest because her cousin Pepe was the pitcher, my son the catcher. We went all the way to mucky muck baseball, whatever. Miss Idelson, her children are all gate kids like my boy. My boy graduated MIT a semester early. And so I just want to know, I have a conflict of interest with 2 of you because of our children's relationships, but closed session on that topic. My second, and the date of that was November 6th. There's witnesses, and there are faculty and teachers who will tell you that they have been advised not to speak to me. So if you don't want parent leadership on Santa Barbara High of my caliber who will give time and money, I suggest you go into closed session and talk about your administration. 2, pool safety. I have an issue. I just got back. I'm dirty because I just flew in from Boston. I did the East Coast Nick Johnson Memorial, MIT Strong, Don Strong. You have never seen anything so beautiful in your life as what the Dons put on. Once a Don, always a Don. Don't break that cycle. It was beautiful. beautiful. It was right across from the building where no more words need to be said. No words were said. It was all done a cappella. I have 15 seconds left. My third point was Santa Barbara High Jazz Band. My son's a tenor sax musician. You have a Grammy winner, Victor Morello, East Side. It's going to play Carnegie Hall on May 16th, graduating Berklee College of Music, first in his family of Latinos, 8th grade educated. When you select new faculty, please, I beg you, put a parent rep on it and a department affiliated from Santa Barbara City College. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Locke.
My name is Kenneth Locke. Been here before. Just went before the City Council, did a public comment. Actually, well, it was Parks and Rec last time they met, did a public comment. I mentioned to the Parks and Rec that I'm the guy that's down at the municipal courts who was working on tennis ambidextrously, the connection between tennis and holistic health. And then a whole basis. What I mentioned before the city is the basis of the mind-body integration. Which I spoke before you about the whole concept of education reform into the interdisciplinary perspective, but then also in relation to the mind-body integration. Right now, the educational system is suffers from a gap between the mind and body. The question is do you know what a mind-body exercise is? Do you know what a mind-body exercise isn't? Right now, this school doesn't have a reference to say, an exercise discipline that actually provides that integration. And let's see, the way to understand the mind-body integration, or the whole basis of a sound mind and sound body, the two have to be one. They're both integrated. So the benefits associated with the mind-body exercise is that you would be learning intelligent knowledge for the mind in relation to a completely integrated composition of the exercise. And who I represent in relation to athletics is the first athlete to actually be able to take a athletic or sport and then recognize it in its completeness, again, in relation to its complete composition. It's kind of similar to like swimming. Like if you took a certain, say a breaststroke, there's a certain composition to it. And the idea is that when you learn, you'll be learning how to recreate that composition. Turns out that tennis has a composition. And what I was able to understand is how it's mind, body, spirit. There's a concept, the spiritual, there's a balance. I think I've mentioned this to you before. But what I'm doing is ambidextrous. It actually has to be understood when you can actually recreate the composition in relation to its completeness. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it with both arms. And for whatever reason right now, an educational system competition, it has kind of corrupted the students' ability to become intelligent as well as healthy. Just thought I'd pass that along to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item DA, this is the acceptance of donations for April 8th, 2014.
I will move to accept with gratitude.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. Now we're moving to the consent agenda. We've already pulled item E5. Are there any other items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval. I'll move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of E5.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Herron, seconded by Dr. Paz. All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. And now let's address item E5. This is the approval of sports program agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Boys and Girls Club Santa Barbara. At this time, I expect all public comment requests to be in. So if you haven't put one in, you have about a minute to get something filled out, even if it's a scrap of paper, since we're out of the regular forms, just to let us know that we should call your name. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and close that. And Dr. Cash.
Would introduce Dr. Drotti.
Thank you.
Would this, I guess for the board, would this be more or less, you want an overview what the whole process is, or?
Would like to take a look at the contract, if we can pull that up on the screen, and then just get an overview of what the district's intention is with this contract, of this agreement.
Absolutely. I can certainly do that, but I've actually invited the athletic director for the Boys and Girls Club, Kim Kajar, to come give us an overview.
Great.
As he'll be the one that's requesting this. So, Ms. Kim Kajar.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kim Kerr. I'm the athletic director at the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara, right here at 632 East Cannon Perdido. What we're trying to do at the Boys and Girls Club is start a football league with the Santa Barbara School District's support to have football again in the junior high level at La Colina, La Cumbra, Santa Barbara Junior High, and Goleta Valley. We've been doing athletics at the Boys and Girls Club since 1938. Tyler's showing some pictures. We had football at the Boys and Girls Club in through 1970. It had stopped. My son was one of the original kids to come back and start playing at the football, the YFL and the Boys and Girls Club in 2000, and we've been doing supporting YFL and working with them ever since. In the past, we've been having trouble getting home games for our teams, for the Boys and Girls Club. Kids that were practicing there, we were traveling a lot, so we went ahead and tried to start a new league, something new in Santa Barbara to make sure our kids can have home games, home fields, and have more control of what happens with our kids that are Boys and Girls Club members. We tried to apply to the TV YFL for the North County League, where the Santa Barbara YFL is a part of. We were denied that, so we approached the PYFL and were accepted into that league. So we're trying to move on and start a football league of our own to have our kids play at the junior high level. Just to start some interest again at that level, so when they're going in the high school, at any high school in Santa Barbara, they'll be allowed to, they'll have some experience. We were asking to use the fields at Santa Barbara High, San Marcos, and Dos Pueblos. We've been in meetings with athletic directors about how we can work together to make this league a strong league. The Boys and Girls Club will run the whole league as far as taking registration, handling the coaches' clinics. We do the heads-up football. We do the concussion training. We'll all be self-funded through the Boys and Girls Club. Every kid would get a chance to play in Santa Barbara who wanted to play football. Just like any other of our programs there, we have never denied a kid a chance to play. Earlier in the session, they mentioned that Umwe Banks and La Cuesta and Rincon High had approached us earlier to try and have a basketball game, a first time ever. We accommodated that. We want to work with the school district to give these kids a chance to play football in the PYFL this year. Anything else?
And just to add to that, I think our attraction to Boys and Girls Clubs, because we understand the need for athletics and sports. We're aligned with the vision of Boys and Girls Club, and in the concerns they would have in terms of tackle football. That's obviously I'm sure the question you ask about safety and all that. I mean, our attraction to them, and I'm speaking on behalf of just the principals and people very interested in doing this. Our attraction to them is because we're aligned with the philosophy of safety, who will be involved in coaching the students, and so we're happy to support them.
Thank you. I think before we take board questions, we'll go ahead and listen to public comment on this.
We have 15 requests. We normally allow 20 minutes. So at 2 minutes each, that would be 30 minutes. So I recommend that we allow 2 minutes each.
All right, 2 minutes each. Mr. Torina, if you'll monitor that, that would be great. And if you'll start your list, Mr. Herron.
I'll call out 3 names, and if you could move towards the podium so we can go through this, it'd be great. Angelina Detamonte, Joe Salcido, Dawn Williams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelina Dedamani, and I'm speaking on behalf as an active community member in Santa Barbara, as well as a third-generation family that's been here, that's been through a lot of programs, as well as Boys and Girls Club and YFL. I'm not sure if you board members are aware of the current issue in Santa Barbara right now, that is the proposed gang injunction, which is a huge issue right now. And it's the outreach and youth is particularly what I'm working with a couple of the city council members with. And I have looked into this program that Boys and Girls Club and Santa Barbara Unified School District, or representatives from the district, have proposed. And I see a huge need for it. A need for partnering with education, which when I met with a couple of the athletic directors and Boys and Girls Club representatives, their biggest concern is, number one, education first, and teamwork and sports and the camaraderie that is built within that. And so I urge you guys and encourage you guys to definitely look into this program thoroughly, for that matter. Look into it and see that this is a program that can keep kids that might not have the funding or might not have the resources to get involved in an athletic program. Again, Santa Barbara used to be really well known for football and athletics. Football has declined a lot, and there's no reason for it. So I think that if there's a program that can offer students the opportunity to play and be proud of their school, be proud of their community.
20 seconds.
I think it would be a great opportunity to support this. I urge you to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Salcido.
Good evening. Joe Salcido. I'm the past president of the YFL here in Santa Barbara. I played 30-some years ago, coached, and was athletic director and president. A couple weeks ago, we found out that there was another league starting here in town, and when that happened, a lot of community members, past YFL members, people that are coaches, parents, we started discussions. And in fact, we even started discussions with the club to see what we can do to kind of make sure that we have a united community, not a fractioned community. And the agreement right now is that let's continue those discussions. Let's continue them. And that's where we're at right now. So I would ask you guys to just encourage those discussions to continue before there's a vote, because I think there's more that we have in common than what we have that's not in common. I don't think there's a downfall to ask for that deferral, because number one, there's a league. Kids are gonna play. Number two, we've never turned away a kid from playing because they didn't have the money. You could talk to Cam Sanchez, you could talk to the Transition House, you could talk to CALM. All these organizations, principals at the elementary schools, they've always called us and said, hey, I have a kid so-and-so that needs to be in the program. We've always taken them in. We've never denied a kid to play football. And if there is one, I'd like to know who they are, because that's always been our policy. So I just ask that you encourage that dialogue, because again, we are a community, and I think we could do more if we are together than if we're breaking apart. Thank you.
Dawn Williams, followed by Jamie Melgoza.
Before you start, I just actually do want to acknowledge Aaron Mize, who coached my son and Kim's son 14 years ago through the Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club. And it was a great experience. And they partnershiped with the Santa Barbara Youth Football League. So my son is in here along with Aaron. So he was a great role model and a great coach. As you know, we have over 40 years of service to this community. Last year, at the beginning of our 2013 year season, we got together with the Santa Barbara Unified School District. We had 2 meetings. If you're not, I'll be happy to pass this out to you. Basically, the school district told us they wanted to take over our league, place our players, and choose our coaches. We declined. but we encouraged them to join the board as advisors and to work with the league. Once we submitted our 2013 field use applications, ETH Athletic Director offered one Saturday for us to play on their fields. They denied our application for practice fields. So yes, our players have to travel because we don't have the support of our local school system, our public system. Dr. Bendrati reached out to the local Boys and Girls Club in an effort to start this league. Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club joined. The Goleta and the Santa Barbara West Boys and Girls Club denied. The perception of the Santa Barbara Unified School District and what Dr. Drati publicly stated is that the Santa Barbara Youth Football League is a feeder school to Bishop. This is completely untrue, as our parents will send their children to the school they feel best suits their children's needs and families' beliefs. Parents who are working with Dr. Drati in his quest to start this junior high league have kids that have gone to or go to Bishop.
25 seconds.
Our board of directors is interested in high school, is not interested in the high school our players go to. We are interested in our mission statement to provide the opportunity for youth and to benefit from physical, mental, moral, and spiritual development using the great game of football as a catalyst. Each year we have supported every high school in advertising their summer football programs. We send emails out to our parents and we advertise on our website.
Thank you.
If any of you guys would like the handout.
You could do that, or you could mail it to us, whichever is easier for you. Sure.
Jamie Malgoza.
First of all, I'd like to say sorry about the way I'm dressed. I just got done with baseball practice. My name is Jaime Malgoza. Been a coach here for 25 years plus. I'm a parent, I'm a businessman, and I came to support the boys club. I came to support the youth football, and obviously I came to support all the schools, districts. I just want to make sure, the reason why I'm speaking here is just to make sure that we're making the right choice. That's really important. Just as a parent, for my kid, he's a 5th grader, I want to make sure that it's the right thing for him. I'm not sure, I've heard the difference between the boys club and the youth football. To me, I think we should take maybe another week to figure out and listen to everybody's sides and decide what's the right thing for these kids. It's all about the kids. Sure, I bleed green and gold. I'm a Don. And once a Don, always a Don. And, you know, I coach there, and I love coaching there, and I respect Mr. Becchio, Mr. Chenowich, and I respect you guys all. But I think we should definitely listen to everybody and take our time on this. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheila Price, followed by Larry Martell, followed by Patty Murillo.
Hi, I'm Sheila Price. I've lived in Santa Barbara since 1961, and my son played YFL football back in 1978, so it's been here a long, long time. This whole thing really, really is disappointing to me. It seems incredibly exclusive, like carving out this very select group of junior high kids, I guess, to feed to the high schools, it sounds like. I have a question. It mentions in the agreement that the district's football booster clubs are going to be putting up the money to start this, and I just wanted to confirm that it's the football booster clubs that are going to be putting up the money to get this going. It says $10,000 of booster club funds. If you turn to page 2, you'll see it there in your agreement, I believe. And I'm curious who's on the board of the Boys and Girls Club Santa Barbara. Are these, independent, board members that care about, or are they members of the high school somehow, or the board, the school district? I'm really disappointed in all of this. The Santa Barbara YFL has been great. My grandson played there. My daughter was a cheerleader. We used to practice at the Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club for years, YFL. My grandson practiced YFL there. And now they say they don't have places to play, but it doesn't seem, seems to be a problem that the high schools have contributed to, and I don't know if the district has or not. Who's going to be retaining the coaches? It says retaining. Are the
20
coaches going to be
seconds.
hired? The exclusive use of fields, and it sounds like the exclusive use of fields is going to be available year-round, you know, as long as mutually agreed upon between the district and the Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club. Does that mean the schools' fields that I pay tax dollars on aren't going to be available? So what if my kids, or, well, they graduated from...
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much for listening.
Larry Martell, followed by Patty Murillo, followed by Ruben
Hi,
Zuniga.
Hi, I'm Larry Martell. I'm the president of the YFL here in Santa Barbara. I want to be brief. Everybody before me has already spoken, and I feel basically the same way. I don't think we should start another league. I think we should stick with the YFL. There already is a football league. I think we should obviously talk amongst the boys club and ourselves and figure out what we can do to work together. The boys club's a great, I mean, I love the boys club. We've had relationships with the boys club. They've helped us with fields and whatnot. I just think we need to work together, and I'm hoping we can do that. Thank you.
Patty Murillo, followed by Ruben Zuniga.
My name is Patty Murillo. I am the Santa Barbara Youth Football League secretary. I have 5 children, none of whom play YFL right now. I want to start by saying how disappointing this potential partnership is to me. I question the real motives. Why would someone insist on starting a new youth football league when one already exists? Does the school district impose themselves on all local youth sports, soccer, basketball, water polo? Why would anyone approve to fund such a league when it's so expensive? Ask our treasurer right here. She can give you a breakdown of how much pads, shoulder pads, helmets, jerseys, all the equipment just to start up this fund. Can this money be used somewhere else at the Boys Club? There's already a league. We have helmets. We have everything. We've been here 43 years. And what is even more disconcerting is the amount of time and energy that has gone into planning this league by district employees who should be more focused on education, curriculum, textbooks, paying teachers. Another item that I have an issue with is why the fields have been withheld by the school district. YFL hasn't been able to use the fields for a while now. We got them taken away for practice. The coaches that we had last year, I understand 4 of them have joined the Boys Club, so they're qualified coaches according to the Boys Club. If they coach for us, now they're coaching for them. One of the things I read on the agenda that one of the claims is we're not affordable. If you check our website, we're $105 with 3 books of tickets, $105. And the email that Kim sent out to potential parents that are going to play for them, they're charging $225. So I question where the money's coming from, number one. I ask why a new league when there already is one. And I'm also asking for a better agreement that can be made, one that doesn't require so much money to be taken away from the kids at the club. And also reiterating...
I'm sorry, I didn't give you a time warning, but you spent your time.
And also reiterating that we are affordable, and you can ask Kim, how much did your son pay last year to play? Yeah. Yeah, we give a lot of scholarships, a lot, and our treasurer can tell you.
Ruben Zuniga, followed by Maria Rogers, followed by Edward Duras.
Good evening. My name is Ruben Zuniga. I'm a 3rd generation Santa Barbara, and I grew up in the Boys Club system. I love what the Boys Club system did for me out in Goleta. Abe Jahadami, Sal Rodriguez were out there at the time. Grew up playing YFL on the fields, couldn't wait to be a Royal, was a Royal, had a great time. Now I coach. I've coached YFL for about 5 years. You know, I had some issues with some of the statements here. Of the 150-something kids I've coached, I know for a fact several of them have been on pretty much free scholarships year after year. We're welcoming in kids of this community. I think the biggest issue that, that I have here is an inconsistency in the support for the youth programs. This is not a business. This is not competition. These are programs to develop the youth, and these youth gravitate towards open arms. So I invite you guys to consider where you guys are opening your arms and where you're not, and to whom you're doing that to, and you know, to whom you're supporting, who's making these decisions. We've got something long-standing and with a lot of foundation and roots in this community. We all have children playing in it or have played in it, and you know, Dr. Cash, yourself, I could tell you've got a competitive spirit. You value the competition that comes from somewhere, and it's nurtured. And when you're dealing with children, and we don't deal with football players, we deal with children. And when you support them and nurture them and open up your fields to them, you get them in return, you know, as contributing students to your academic
20 seconds.
Your academic efforts as well as your athletics. So I invite you to take a strong look at this and realize if you're supporting a division in the community or if you're bringing it together. And you know, I think at the end of the day, if you make the right decision, we will unite, and this will be a good thing.
Thank you. Maria Rogers, followed by Edward Duras, followed by John Becchio.
Hi there, I am Maria Rogers, and I'm just going to be really quick and to the point. Basically, I just don't understand why this even came about when there's already a youth football league program in the community that has been very successful in the community for the past 40 years. Just want you to think about that. Thank you.
Edward Duras, John Becchio, followed by Tyler Forshee.
My name is Edward Duras. I'm born and raised in Santa Barbara, and basically raised through the Boys Club and the YFL system. I'm kind of along the same lines as Mr. Melgoza, who spoke earlier. I think that there needs to be some more time dedicated to trying to find a happy medium, so to speak. I really don't feel that it was the inspiration of Mr. Hilbert and Mr. Hampson to have these types of factions going at each other, competing for kids to play football in the area. And listening to some of the other comments, I had noticed that I only heard a couple of the junior highs mentioned. I didn't hear any of the charter school kids or any of the parochial school kids mentioned in how they would be implemented into that new program and where they would play and who they would play for. Like I said, I've been in this area for a while, and I've seen YFL go through its peaks and valleys, and I think that there's a real good uprising at this point now where people are starting to get together and bring it back up again, and it might be why you have some of these factions now wanting to compete for kids to play on whatever side of the city they live on or wherever they see themselves going in the future. It just come back to something that was in play back when YFL first started, 71, 72, 73. There was a boys club team, and basically what happened was YFL put in strict guidelines on size and age and limits like that, and the boys club had an open type of activity, type of participation. So it might be in Santa Barbara's interest to have maybe a big boys team coming out of the boys club faction, as opposed to trying to get as many kids as they can, because as we know, there's a lot of kids who don't meet the weight limit in Santa Barbara, and if they don't meet the weight limit or too high, sometimes they're not able to play and participate. And
thank you.
Football is a sport that's made for all shapes and sizes. Thank you.
Mr. Becchio, followed by Tyler Forshee, followed by Abe.
Thank you very much. Three principals, three athletic directors, assistant superintendent, we do not share the vision that YFL's organization has. We've had conversations with them. We've tried to sit down at the table and work with them to try to align our vision with their vision. That just is not something I think is going to come together. However, there are good people in the YFL organization that will join our efforts, good people that can help us with our program, and we think that will happen. As a principal, here's the difficulty I've had with YFL. It started back in junior high. They decided I offered them study hall and our field at the junior high. They refused, so that our East Side kids would have to ship all the way over to Bishop and practice. I then became a high school principal, and and I realized there were some significant CIF violations that their organization was involved in. I went to the table with CIF's with YFL's leadership. I told them that I would not file with CIF, but that I wanted them to make some changes with respect to their rules. I gave them the CIF Blue Book code that they should follow. I asked for safety issues for them to address those with their coaches, and culture issues with respect to how their games are conducted, type of language that's used at their games, and they don't align with our vision, I can tell you that. They said they would do something about it. Fast forward a year, another CIF violation, a pretty serious one. In fact, a school got sanctioned over it. That was one of their coaches in one of their practices. We brought them to the table. We attempted to form a partnership.
20 seconds.
Thank you. Form a partnership. We offered facilities. We offered access to our elementary schools to get kids signed up. And yes, we wanted to be involved in who their coaches are. That aligns with our vision. They did not want to engage in that conversation with us. I think it's too late. The train has left the station. We have an organization that shares our vision.
Thank you.
And we should go with the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you.
Tyler Forshee.
Hi, my name is Tyler Forshee. I'm the teen director at the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara, as well as the assistant program director. I've heard a lot of things today here about competition and about us wanting to take away from them and how we should all just, merge together. As a professional that works with kids every day, there is no one cookie cutter program that works for every kid. I'm a person that believes that a little bit of competition will breed success. I think that all kids can find their niche in something, somewhere, that it's not always going to be the same for all of them. One of the other things that I want to address is that I played YFL as a kid. When I was a kid, there was 10 teams in the league. There were all these different teams. Recently, we've seen a massive decline in the amount of teams that we have here in Santa Barbara. We've seen this decline of football in our community. Football is something that can teach young men and young women a lot about life, a lot about persevering, and a lot about facing adversity. And I just want to see that amount of football in our community rise back up to where it once was, and I don't see that happening currently with the YFL system. The other thing that we're trying to do with our league is we want to play against good competition. Good competition is going to make our kids better, and so that's why when the league that they're a part of voted us down, we moved to the PYFL league to play against the Westlakes and the Oxnards and the Venturas that our kids eventually, once they join the Channel League, end up playing against. Okay, so
5 seconds.
All right. I just think that having two different leagues isn't going to hurt football in this community. I think it's going to make it better. I think it's going to give more kids an opportunity to play.
Thank you. Abe Jahadami, followed by Joe Chenoweth.
Hello, my name is Abe Jahadami. I want to talk about successful programs in this community, successful youth programs in this community. Volleyball, water polo, soccer. Those programs are very successful, and the reason they're successful is they're aligned very closely with the Santa Barbara School District. We help them with their coaching programs. We help them in any way they can, and safety and also ethics, doing the right things, doing everything that is correct. And that's why a lot of kids gravitate to those sports. That's why we're losing football players, that they're not involved with us. I strongly, strongly suggest that we vote for having the school district go with the boys clubs, Santa Barbara Boys and Girls Club. I am a product of the Boys and Girls Club. I worked with the Boys Club for many, many years, and I think we align so closely. It's that important that we go with it. The other thing is we're losing numbers so much, and most of the kids that play football is the most diverse sport of any of our sports in our district. And when we have during football season, academically the kids go up. Right now we only have enough for two junior high school programs. with joining up with the Boys and Girls Club, we'll have four programs, and that's going to really help our kids who are struggling in the junior high schools bring their grades back up. And so, as a district, I really, really want you to make a commitment to this program. And, you know, like Mr. Becchio said, we want to move on as a district and do things that we believe in. And so that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Chenoweth?
Hello, everybody. First off, I'd like to say that my name is Joe Chenoweth, Athletic Director for Santa Barbara High School. I'm also a graduate of Bishop Diego High School, which is about 2/3 of the representatives from YFL that are here today. And I want to let you know that we really do agree with the Boys and Girls Club's philosophy. It's about integrity. It's about the way that games are played. The coaches on the sidelines, they're what they're supposed to be doing or saying when interacting with kids. One important thing to know is when we're talking about field use, we as athletic directors for all the schools deal not just with one organization but multiple organizations. Santa Barbara Youth Soccer Club, lacrosse, which is becoming a big sport. We have youth football. We have now adult football. We have our own programs. We care about the students of Santa Barbara School District. We want to see that these basically are our kids. So we want to have the best options for them. And so my job is to make sure that our field is maintained well enough for our students to be able to participate in. Our fields, unfortunately, get destroyed. So if you come, I invite you to come to a 6-period PE class with our boys soccer and our girls soccer, and they're playing in tennis shoes to protect the field. So there is a reason why. The other thing is when we did meet with the YFL, they rejected us. Some of the statements that are being said, particularly about Dr. Durati, are just not true. I would encourage you to vote to allow us to join the Boys Club for not only the integrity of the program, but again to align us with the vision of the school district, which is really to maintain and take care of the kids that we interact with every day.
8 seconds.
Dealing with not only we want to have study hall actions, and we also want to be able to have an opportunity to allow them to grow as individuals. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, comments and questions? Mr. Herron?
One question. On page 1 at the bottom, there's no dates. What is the time period? Shall be a period of how many years? And commencing, I presume?
We were going to go year by year unless at some point, if you agree to it and want to go.
It's got a blank for a number then. Is there a number anybody has in mind, or is it?
Period of 1 year.
Okay. Can we make sure that's in the record?
Yes.
And there were a couple comments. What about charter schools and private schools?
In terms of them coming to join this program, if you ever considered it, all the students will go through the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, so the sign-ups will be through the Boys and Girls Club. We're just going to have 4 teams that are representative of the biggest population in Santa Barbara that goes to, which is basically the junior highs.
But
so,
do they have to be one of our junior high students?
No. No.
We will outreach to all.
Yeah, that's a Boys and Girls Club question.
Okay. Okay.
The Boys and Girls Club will allow any child from any school district, any school to play in the league. The alignments will be from the area junior high schools. If they go to a parochial school or any other school, they will be signed up into a league, and wherever they live in that district, that will be the team that will be representing. So if they live in the Goleta Valley district and they go to St. Rayfields or we have children signing up from Mount Carmel, we have children signing up from Marymount, from Garden Grove Academy, they will all be welcome, but they will be placed on a team within the school district that they will be going to in junior high.
And there was one comment about the cost that I took as if your programs would be more expensive than the YFL program.
No, we'll be charging, our base price is $225, and we will offer full scholarships to any child that needs it through the Boys and Girls Club.
And what is the YFL charge?
I believe if they sell a certain amount of tickets. But yeah, if a child comes in and cannot afford any of the $225, we will offset that cost.
Thank you.
Please look at paragraph C of your agreement and read it before that's not accurate what you just said.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
It says students of the 4 junior highs. Who attend the 4 junior highs.
What about 4C, paragraph C?
We can amend number C, and we are offering it to any child in Santa Barbara will be allowed to play. The 4 junior high schools is how we are drawing our boundaries to like put our teams out. Any child will be able to play. We'll market it out to every child in Santa Barbara. We'll advertise in the papers like YFL's doing, and it'll be open to any child at any school in Santa Barbara to play. We don't have boundaries at the Boys and Girls Club. We have children that go to DP, Bishop, Santa Barbara, San Marcos.
I understand that, but C doesn't say that.
So I'll just follow up on that. So you would change the language to read for students who live within the boundaries of those 4 junior high schools? All right. Ms. Simon.
Thank you. So I just want to go on public record that anyone who wants to be in this program, any student that cannot pay for this program will be able to play if there is with the scholarship.
With the scholarship.
Not if there is one.
Yes.
That's correct. Okay. The other thing that I want to clarify, because I've now heard this multiple times in the last 24 hours, is, and I think, Dr. Cash, can you explain how the rental of our fields works? Because I've now heard that there is a belief that our rental fields are not they're not equally accessible to all members of the public. Can you please clarify how?
Well, first, our fields are used by our schools. And oftentimes, field use, it's in some ways extraordinarily predictable. In other ways, it's very unpredictable because in the field-dependent sports, soccer, football, baseball, softball, it's very hard to know, like if a team makes it beyond their regular season, as to how much longer they're going to need that field space. So typically during a season, it's relatively straightforward in how you can allocate fields. Unfortunately, we only have one turf field at San Marcos High School, and so what Mr. Chenoweth was explaining is the reality at Santa Barbara High School and Dos Pueblos as far as field use, and that is, and I can speak from experience as the principal at Dos Pueblos, that at this time of year, the fields are mostly dirt because they have been so overused. So the ADs and the coaches work really hard to try to keep the field so that they can stay in playable shape, and so that's part of the unpredictable part of it, is that we've had extraordinarily dry weather, which creates poor field conditions, and we've had extraordinarily wet weather at times that also creates very poor field conditions. So as much as I would like to say that it's always predictable, and we could always say fields are available from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock at each of our high schools, it's just that we're not able to do that. And what we do is we trust our athletic directors and our principals and our assistant principals at the high schools who are in charge of facilities to help make those decisions on what's best for the high school.
Well, I just want to be clear that there's not any one group that has more access to our public fields than other groups.
Just the high schools themselves.
Just the schools themselves, which makes sense. Right. The other piece that I wanted to clarify, and I don't know if that's a Dr. Cash question as much as it might be the high schools, is the comment that was made that there are members of the booster clubs who are on either the board of directors or the advisory board. Can you publicly let us know whether or not that is the case and whether they refrained from voting on this financial agreement? So, I mean, and I have, I would like the high schools, because I want to make sure that there is not a financial conflict of interest if the boosters are contributing $10,000 and there's members of the booster clubs who had a say in the vote that are also on the Boys and Girls Club
If you could
vote.
just clarify what vote are you referring to?
The decision made to move to fund this with $10,000, right? Because it's not coming
Okay.
from the general fund.
Right.
And so it's coming from the boosters, if I read the contract correctly. So I want to make sure that anyone who was involved with that decision is also not
Right,
on the board.
that's something that we discussed as principals, athletic directors, around the table with Dr. Drotti and the Boys and Girls Club. It's actually going to be our way of providing coach. I'm not sure what else we talked about funding with that. So it was not a vote. We did not take a vote, but we had said that as a principal group and athletic director group, that's what we would contribute.
So I want to, your question is, are there members of any football booster team, booster club, that are voting board members of the Boys and Girls Club?
Well, I have a list here of the board of directors and the advisory board, and it's a long list, so I don't know. I want to be clear that there's not a conflict of interest. I mean, I can read the names, and if any... Read the names. All right, so officers, David Edelman, Jim Turner, Tim Gallagher, Steve Gowdy, Norm Amour, David Beard, Richard Callanan, Timothy Casey, Mark Danielson, David Dominguez, Aaron Dowd, Joyce Dudley,
Boys and Girls Club.
Anthony Gomez, Jerry Howard, Leah Larson, David McKeever, Robert Nielsen, Amy Parrish, Sean Thompson, Scott Brittingham, W. Mason Farrell, Roy Gaskin, Carter Hines, Palmer Jackson, Rich Longpour, John Mobsby, Tom Prendville, Robert Skinner, Gerald Theed, James Wilt, Robert Wiley, Beverly Wood. I want to make sure any of those individuals did not have anything to do with this decision. If
I didn't hear any names that were at the table, no.
Anybody else from the other schools that represent? Okay, so there is none of those members, those individuals that I read are affiliated with the boosters. Okay. Now, the other thing that I have a concern with is something that actually has less to do with the topic we're discussing, but protocol. And on multiple issues, many members of the cabinet can testify that I have really stressed the importance of following protocol. And in this particular item, I want to acknowledge that as a board member, I actually have been hearing about this item for 2 years. So this didn't come as news to me in any which way. And I've been hearing about this potential for 2 years. I also know that other school districts across the state of California have junior high school programs, but it's coming to us as consent and not conference first. And this, again, has less to do with the topic, but more to do with the protocol that I believe is important. That is an issue, I think, for me, as far as how we allow public input on a particular topic. The other piece that I feel this is similar to a prior issue that we talked about 2 years ago, where an MOU comes to us where there's going to be a fee associated to the students. And I asked the question then, and I ask it now, why isn't this just a facilities use agreement? If this is really just about using facilities, why is it not a facilities use agreement, and why is it an MOU? And I have a big issue with pay to play, and I think it's gray zones. I don't want to see our district, because this is the second time in the almost 4 years that I've been on the board, that this has happened, where there is an organization or a 501c3 that serves to provide a program but does have a fee associated, and it doesn't come to us as a strict facilities use. This is much more than using facilities. There's a description there about several items. So those two things are things that I throw out there. I think I want to be fair on how I treat all of the issues. And so the last two really didn't have anything to do with the topic per se, but protocol that has been important to me as a school board member.
Dr. Paz.
I share the same concern as Ms. Limon does on the last point, because as a newer board member, I did during my period of time before I joined the board meet with people from YFL and did hear the concerns about the fields and didn't know necessarily the protocol of what existed before joining the board. So those concerns were always present in my mind. But in terms of this agreement, it is something new. I didn't necessarily know that the staff were going to bring this to our attention and ask for us to vote on it as a consent item. And I would definitely, given the input that we've heard tonight, would have taken it in conference agenda instead of as a consent agenda item, which is just, for me, it's not, it's easier for me to digest something if we're going to make I look at it as an exception. We're making an exception. We are, in many ways, not looking at another opportunity and yet contracting with an agency that, for me, I have a lot of history with. I grew up in Goleta. I went to the Boys and Girls Club in Goleta. Abe was my coach in the Boys and Girls Club. So I have a lot of history and love the organization in so many different ways, but also see that we have to be equitable in a lot of different ways before we take a step and contract with an agency. We have to look at the lay of the land. How does this impact other organizations within our community? What has happened? I didn't necessarily know all of the background, the history, and as a board member, it's hard for me to make a decision. I feel like I'm coming into a conversation really late, and it's challenging for me to make a decision tonight and really say, oh, I'm going to make a decision because based on just this. And I also have a little bit of an issue even with the agreement and the recitals, because there's a lot of pieces in here I've heard from people from the YFL in terms of the fees. And D, you look at it and you read it, and I read it a couple of times, and there's pieces in there that I don't necessarily agree should be an agreement or an MOU, that there are a lot of conjectures. And I think it should be based on the reality, not on conjectures. And there's a lot of conjectures in D. And I'm really uncomfortable with that part in itself. Whether it's true or not, we've heard speakers tonight that say it's not. We've heard speakers tonight, yes, it's true. So it's hard for me to want to put that piece in there and keep it in there. So that's another concern I have in terms of this item.
Ms. Idelson?
I share much of what you're saying also. The question that comes to my mind is, why has there been such a decrease in the YFL signups? Is it field, there not being fields available? And it seems like that was mentioned several times, and I didn't really get the backstory. And maybe that's through the 2 years, what has occurred? What is there any background to that?
Yes, I think Kim can actually be, because he actually has his teams actually are part of YFL, the Boys and Girls Club, so he probably has better information on why this has declined. But Kim, do you want to respond to that, or?
And the president of the YFL could speak to it.
You know what, I'm just going to stop that there. We're only going to, at this point, take information from staff.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. My understanding is, it's precisely, you heard yourself, there's a lot of YFL players wanting to come back and join Boys and Girls Club because they feel that the product of Boys and Girls Clubs would be better. Since I've been here, I've heard of a lot of complaints about YFL, and the coaches' dealings with the students, practices that they have. So it's not just us here that's misaligned with it. There's a lot of people about to wanting to jump ship from YFL to join the Boys and Girls Club, and because they see this probably going to be a better model for them.
Okay.
But so.
Any other questions? Mr. Herron, did you want to speak at this point?
Yes, to me, C and D need revision. When I read it, I took it literally, and I thought, in contrast, as in D, the relatively small membership dues will pay to students will pay to participate, will allow more of these students to participate, underserved. When in fact, and it says one of the reasons we're doing it is to get a lesser fee, and it doesn't seem that there's a lesser fee, unless I'm missing something. So I think C and D, as I think Mr. Paz said, both need to be, and my initial reaction was very much the same. It's coming on a consent calendar. Obviously, we misread the public on the issue, or the people involved in the issue, and it should have been on a conference item. I would like to see it come back for further discussion and a vote at a later date.
All right, I'll speak to 2 points. One is first on the placement on the consent agenda. And while other board members may have been very aware of issues with YFL, I was not. And so what I see here is an agreement or a contract, which is very normal to come forward on a consent agenda item. Normally, a highly controversial issue we would put onto conference, but we can't always know that it's going to be highly controversial, and this is perfect because we can have it on consent and then change it, and if it turns out it should have been in a different part of the agenda. That is fine, but it's perfectly normal for an agreement or a contract to come forward on consent. On the topic itself, and I'm happy to come back and have it perhaps be as an action agenda item, since I feel like we've kind of had our conference on this at this point. I guess I'm very surprised to see this coming forward, and I can see why on the YFL side it's very controversial. It's very normal and a common practice for us to be very concerned about what our junior high students are doing after school in sports. And we have made a lot of changes over the years to try to create better sports programs with them. And we have made different alliances for different sports activities. And we've done that based on staff recommendation about what they feel is best for our students. And so I think I'm surprised in the sense that an outside club, because there's so many outside clubs for different kinds of sports. So it's surprising to see this particular sort of outside group that I think has essentially just had such a, it hasn't had any competition, and it hasn't had any other, alternatives for students of that particular age group, whereas for most of our other sports, they are out there. And so I can see why this is a shock to IFL. On my end, it's not a shock at all, of course, that our teachers, our administrators, our athletic directors will be looking at what's best for our students within our district. So that piece doesn't surprise me. I really appreciate what everybody has had to say on this. I know that I'm going to support what our athletic directors and our administrators think are what's best for our students. I appreciate the whole payment piece. I can see that obviously YFL is not affiliated with the district at all, and they're charging what they're charging. Once we come in, once we actually pick a partner that really is working much more directly with our schools, I do think that it would be wise for us, maybe before it comes back on action, to take a closer look at what that agreement looks like. Because, for us, there are absolutely legal ramifications when, I hate the idea of scholarship. We don't do that for our own students, making students self-identify, things like that, I'm really deeply uncomfortable with. And so I would love to see that come forward in a slightly different way if possible, if it comes back for action at our next meeting. And I think that is where I would leave it at this point. If there are any other comments, otherwise, we will see that on action at our second meeting in April.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to our public hearing. This is item F1, the second reading sunshining of the district's proposal for successor contract negotiations with the California School Employees Association and its Chapter 37.
Dr. Christensen will present items F1 and F2.
In accordance with the Educational Employment Relations Act, the district is presenting its proposal for successor contract negotiations for 2014 through 2017.
All right. We don't talk about this at this point, so thank you very much. I'm going to close this public hearing. and I'll bang my gavel because I can. And we will open the public hearing on item F2, which is the second reading sunshining of California school. It reads pretty much almost exactly the same. It's Chapter 37 proposal for successor contract negotiations.
There you have it.
And that is also the same. We don't have any public comment on this item, on this public hearing. And so at this point, we will close this public hearing and open our final public hearing. This is item F3, the Local Control Accountability Plan. Dr. Cash.
Mr. Handel, could you please put that PowerPoint up?
Yes, sir. Do we have one?
Well, before you tonight, you have, and I wanted to make it so no one could read it. You know, font 1.5. And I apologize. This whole process of the LCAP with the state required template has been fascinating, quite frankly, for all school districts to be engaged in. The smallness of it, how difficult it is to get everything you need within the boxes that they've prescribed for us. But what I wanted to share with you is that tonight is the first public hearing. The LCAP has gone through, since January 16th, a lot of input from a lot of people. The plan, this draft of the plan, reflects as much of that input as we could possibly put in within the context of the 8 state priorities. I'll remind board members that the plan requires districts to identify goals within those 8 state priorities. Our plan, if you could move to the next page on that, Mr. Handel, looks at each of those 8 state priorities. The first state priority is the general conditions of learning. Essentially questions regarding teacher credentialing and assignment, instructional materials, and facilities. Those 3 items are also part of a significant settlement within the state of California, resulting in legislation called the Williams Act. Go on to the next slide, Mr. Handel. The next priority is implementing the state standards, and the state standards that have been adopted are the Common Core State Standards in English Language Arts and Mathematics. The goals that are in each of these are goals that would allow our district to implement the state standards. Another state priority is course access, and that is that we provide all students with access to a broad course of study. And we have defined that as ensuring that our students are college and career ready, all of our students, not just the students who have traditionally been college and career ready. Next state priority is pupil achievement, which one would hope would be a state priority. And our goals under pupil achievement are really to get every student at or above grade level in English language arts and mathematics, and to ensure that our students graduate college and career ready. What's interesting is that as board members are aware that the Smarter Balance assessment that students will be given, which will be rolling out for real a year from now, will include an assessment for students in 11th grade that will be designed to help school districts know whether students are college and career ready. You will note throughout the plan there's a significant amount of attention in pupil achievement, course access, and implementation of the state standards to specific goals regarding our English learner students, as they are one of the unduplicated pupils that our plan is required to address. We have, I believe, some bold goals in relationship to English language acquisition, as well as English learners' ability to achieve at or above grade level in the content areas. Also contained within those 3 real big broad priorities, implementation of the state standards, pupil achievement, and course access, is a lot of professional learning for our teachers. This is a fundamental shift in expectations for what occurs in the classroom as far as teaching, and in particular how students will demonstrate their learning. We hope and plan to follow through on the board directive that we engage our general education teachers and some professional learning around how to differentiate instruction for diverse learners, both students at or above, both students above grade level and students that are currently below grade level, and also on how to teach students who learn in different ways. Next slide, next one. Another priority is other pupil outcomes, and that the committee has picked 3 areas for other pupil outcomes. Science and social studies, the state has adopted the next generation science standards. There are no adopted standards for social studies yet. As I've said at a couple of meetings, the social studies teachers can't agree. They're still yelling at each other. We also put in there pupils participating in visual and performing arts. We think that's really important, that students are in courses or programs, that is helps to ensure that we meet the needs of all students. And finally, that pupils are physically fit and healthy, and we mean physically fit as far as exercise and healthy as far as mental wellness, in addition to social emotional wellness. Next one. A huge part of the LCAP is parent involvement, and the very first page, you don't need to go back to that, is a recitation of the number of times in which parents have been consulted to date in relationship to the development of this plan. In addition to that, as I've stated, I've held 2 regional meetings, one at Dos Pueblos, one at San Marcos, and we'll be holding another one tomorrow at Franklin Elementary School. Additionally, the plan not this plan, but the data was presented to the District English Language Advisory Committee. The plan will be presented to them. And I have created a Local Control Accountability Plan Parent Advisory Committee. I mean, it's just all the initials, the LCAP PAC. And the LCAP PAC is a group of parents of English learners, students living in poverty, and I've met with them twice. We'll meet with them again this week. Received input on the data, the needs assessment, then got input from them on this plan because they saw a draft of it. And now that they've had, it'll be almost 2 weeks to review the plan, then I'm sure we'll get some more input from them when we meet with them. And I'm going to be presenting the plan to the City Council at our joint meeting on
10th.
Thank you. It was coming up. I knew that. And whatever input we continue to get from parents and community members will help inform the work that the LCAP committee will do in redrafting this plan in its current form. We also, as board members are aware, have it posted on the website, and we've received input electronically from people as well. And that input will also be reflected hopefully some of it, if not all of it, in the revised plan, draft 2. So parent decision making is really important. We've identified some specific goals in relationship to that. The most important one, other than just what one would hope, that we're going to increase parent decision making and participation, is that we hope that what we need to see is that the parents that are involved are actually reflective of our student enrollment. We think that's really important. That it's not just one voice that our schools or our district is hearing, but that it's the voices of our community. And so a huge part of what we're going to be working on with some very intentionality is going to be how do we hear those voices? What does that look like? What does that look like at a school site? What does that look like at the district level? My belief is that some of that will probably look like, the ongoing LCAP PAC, though I kind of promised this group that they wouldn't be in existence for the rest of their lives. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to continue if this is something that they would like to do. And I think that's a good sounding board, good place to get input. In addition to that, we have the district's long-standing parent advisory committee also, which meets regularly, and they've also seen the plan and had an opportunity to comment on it as well. So the next one. Pupil engagement is another state priority, this is, I think, from my perspective, extraordinarily important, because if kids are engaged, then they learn. The metrics that we've looked at, which we're required to by the Attorney General, are attendance, absenteeism, dropout rates, and graduation rates, and our goal is to decrease the bad ones and increase the good ones. And I've been reminding parents when I'm out talking about chronic absenteeism, which represents 10% of the school year or more, is that the evidence is very overwhelming about chronic absenteeism. When a student is chronically absent, misses 10% or more, they fall behind as much as in their 6th through 12th grade years, 1 year. And in the primary years, there's good research that's been replicated often that a kindergartner who misses 10% or more doesn't catch up to their peers until they're in 6th grade. So finding ways to ensure each school is going to be tasked with the idea of coming forward with their own individual plan, and Mr. Trina and I have been talking quite a bit about what a district-wide absent or engagement or attendance encouragement plan would look like. Our dropout rate and our graduation rates, we look pretty good as a district compared to the county and the state, but we still have a significant percentage of kids each and every year who choose not to continue in our schools and drop out and don't graduate with their cohort or their peer group. And we think that we have ways to improve that. Next one, please. School climate, as the board members are aware, we have already gone quite a ways, actually, with Hanover in developing our climate survey. And we're going to be surveying our stakeholders this next fall, students, staff, all staff, and a good sampling of parents on a whole host of issues, but some of those issues will include the sense of safety and school connectedness. In addition to that, we are looking to continue to decrease the number of students that we suspend from school and the number of students we expel from school. And you're going to get a quick presentation on how restorative approaches is working in our district. And it's working really well. We're excited about it. It's not perfect, but we're learning as we're moving forward. And we think that's good. And I'm always happy to talk about I remember very clearly as when I was a principal over a decade ago, we'd have triple-digit expulsions every year, and I think we're on number 2015 or something. Yeah, so that's I think we're moving in the right direction. So some of the big ticket things that we're looking to do include a lot of professional learning for our staff. We believe professional learning communities is the vehicle for change for us. We think it puts teacher leaders in the forefront of ensuring that all students get whatever they need to be successful. We also believe that we need to continue creating technology learning environments for our students. We think that that's very important, that we live in the 21st century. Our classrooms should reflect that reality. Content is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Kids should have the ability to access it, and our goal should be to help students understand it, synthesize it, communicate, and collaborate with others. We also are planning on purchasing instructional materials that will be aligned to the Common Core and the next generation science standards. We hope to, by the end of the month of May, bring forward in our TK6 in schools a list of the instructional materials that we intend to present to the board as Common Core aligned for the first trimester of next year. We're excited about that. We think that'll be helpful, creating some sense of certainty for our staff, and the process that our teachers are going through to identify that and find its alliance with the Common Core is, I think, also really good professional learning. Next one. One of the things that we're going to do, that big idea here, is the idea of common formative assessments. We think that that's an essential tool for us to ensure that students, regardless of what school they're in, what grade, that there is a guaranteed curriculum that they get, something that we can ensure that that every second grade student isn't, and every third grade student isn't learning dinosaurs, that there is some sequence scope, sequence, and some assessments that help our teachers learn what's working and what's not working, help also inform us on our instructional programs, and the most important thing that it'll do is it'll give our professional learning communities opportunities to look at student data and change their instruction based upon what they learn as a result of how students are responding to that teaching. So we think that's going to be a very powerful thing for us as well. What's gotten a lot of attention, interesting, is a small little item there. It's not inexpensive, but 6th grade outdoor science camp. I've received a couple of emails about how they think how important that is, that the district support that and provide that. And then 2 other things that are contained within the next phrase, very small, extended learning time. So the extended learning time for our English learner students is 30 minutes each day after the regular school day is end in very specific, intensive, deliberate English language instruction for those students. And then for our students who have not quite yet mastered the skills necessary to enter into the rigorous college and career math courses that are in our high schools, that students in our junior highs and possibly in our upper elementary schools, or upper grades in elementary schools at some point, receive extended time in order to gain the skills necessary to be successful in math. Because you've heard us say that math is the big discriminator for us. It's the one that divides the college and career readiness from the not college and career readiness. We still plan to have our teachers on special assignment. We think that the idea of instructional coaches is a good idea. Remember, this is a 3-year plan. We also believe very strongly that we know how to ensure that every student becomes A through G eligible, that no student through our work finds himself at the end of their 12th grade year unable to meet the minimum requirements to apply for and be accepted to a UC or CSU. That's going to require some very specific changes in our counseling programs, what we do with kids. We also know that we want to ensure that our pupils with disabilities also have those same opportunities as well. I think I've talked about that. So, now's the time for board comments and comments from the public.
Do we have public comment on this?
Mr. John Houchin.
I'm John Houchin, President of Santa Barbara Teachers Association. Good evening, Dr. Cash and school board members. Regarding the formation of the Local Control Accountability Plan Committee, my members want to know, how have you met the letter of the law by ignoring requests to include SBTA in the LCAP committee? SBTA has asked to be a part of the committee more than once. In the section School District LCAP Adoption Process, consultation with school employees, local bargaining units, parents, and students is integrated into all phases of the LCAP development up to adopting the plan. At the district's LCAP Community Forum held at DP, Dos Pueblos High School in April 2nd, Dr. Cash made this statement, quote, "Teachers are the most important element in a school system," end of quote. If this is true, our members want to know why the union has not been included in the LCAP committee, since the union has an established structure to best represent the interests of teachers. According to the law, the superintendent of the school district and county office of education must present the LCAP prior to its adoption to the public and requires the superintendent to respond in writing to comments. We look forward to your response. Thank you.
If you deliver that to me in writing, I will respond.
Thank you, Mr. Houchin. All right. Board members, this is an opportunity for you to comment on this first viewing of the LCAP. It will be coming back to us at least a couple more times before a final vote. But if you have initial thoughts on this, please share them now. Ms. Limon?
So as a board member, this is actually overwhelming. What's overwhelming about it is that there's so many needed goals that I think of just the last few years of how hard it has been just to achieve the goals that we already have in place, and we have a lot of this. Some of them are the same, but some of them are actually a little bit different. I had the opportunity to go to the San Marcos the public meeting held at San Marcos High School. I think it was last week. And there was a lot of good feedback that was given, and I have to actually give kudos to students, because I think that this was one of the first times I've heard students give feedback. But one of the things that came up that is coming up, I guess we're also hearing it via email, is that some of the items that used to be categorically funded, we're not cutting them just because they were categorically funded and they're not anymore. And I know that there was one issue at the San Marcos meeting related to that, but it doesn't seem like that's the only one. I think that there's some just people don't know what we're keeping or what we're not. And I know that I think 2 meetings ago or 1 meeting ago, hard to keep track, asked that the LCAP committee make sure to have that list there, because in some ways I also feel that all members are in a way responsible for getting information out to the public, because when the information doesn't have the public, we do get these concerns. And so I just want to kind of reiterate that. And I would also love to just eventually see like a straight list. We used to have, here's the categoricals, here's what definitely is not going. Because there's been a little, I don't know, at least from the feedback I've gotten, there's some confusion. And I think some people are worried and actually don't have a reason to be worried. So I'll let them worry about something else and not that. There's a lot to worry about these days, right? So that's one area. I also just want to, I appreciate everyone's work on this. This has been a lot of work. I have this because I went to San Marcos, not because I wanted more paper. But the other piece is I don't know, Dr. Cash, if you can clarify just on, I know you've sent the board members twice now the list of the LCAP committee, but if there are others who want to be on that committee, what is the process? I mean, we just heard SBTAs. I wouldn't want, if one, do we have members of SBTA on that committee? Is there, what do we do? Is there other avenues for communication? And of course, if it's SBTA, also CSEA.
Yes, there are members of both bargaining units on the committee.
Okay, so then
And I have requested with both SBTA and CSA to consult with them regarding the LCAP.
So I expect that there will be additional conversation after this.
I hope so.
This communication today.
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Herron?
Yes, I also attended the San Marcos High School, and I can tell you Dr. Cash does a great job synthesizing this in a much shorter PowerPoint, and takes the highlights of this document and sort of puts it more in an English language that the public can understand if they listen to it. So I would urge you to go tomorrow night to Franklin School at 6:15 to see the shortened version of this and get a copy of the shortened version also. And I also have a hard time differentiating between, one of the great things about this new process is we have control. Where in the past, there were 28, 30 buckets of money that the government said you got to spend it like this, period, end of statement. But it puts a huge burden on us to make sure that we're still funding those items that are important to our students. And so I also would like to see possibly a list of all the categoricals, and are we continuing all of them? Are some gone? Are they integrated into this document someplace? I don't want to be caught with eliminating something that we didn't know we eliminated.
That will not happen.
Yeah, and the big one that came up was CalSafe. That seemed to be a big item at San Marcos, which we evidently are not eliminating. And
it had never been discussed.
It had never been discussed. So if anybody is here from one in CalSafe, but that's the kind of thing I think Ms. Limon was talking about is, and I feel personally about is, if we cut something, I want to know about it. I don't want to have a group of people come in and say, why'd you cut it? And so if we could, anything you can do to help us on that matter, it'd be good.
Yes, I'll say it's this whole transition. It's very hard to be as transparent as we all want to be. So that is a difficulty. I'll have to say that I really, and I know it's not our form and we're stuck with it, I really strongly dislike the LCAP chart and the LCAP form. And one of the difficulties that I had with it is that, and you know, I can read it on a PDF reader that makes it a little bit easier than when I look on our Novus Agenda website. But even with that, it's a scanned document, and so it's not searchable. And at least not in the format that we get it. I don't know if there's another program that we could open it with that would make it so that we could look for things. But it's, you know, one way that hit me, and things don't. They aren't necessarily where you'd expect them to be in terms of pages. So when you were talking about the outdoor science camp, I was looking at one page where it showed that funding for that starting in the 15-16 school year. Well, it turned out if I went to the next page, that it showed that it actually starting in the 14-15 school year. But I would have expected them to be on the same page, but that's not the way it's going to work out. Some things are going to be repeated, some things are going to belong in this column and not that column, and it's very, very difficult to read this. So anything that we can do to, clearly you have a better PowerPoint, but I know that that's going to be even more of a summary than this is. So it's just very difficult to work with. My quick initial comments on this were that I was a little concerned about the, and I'm not even going to attempt to tell you what page it was on. There are two references about English learners in year one referring, and there's multiple references to English learners. One's referring to reclassifying within 5 years. But then there's another that refers to all ELs will perform at the same achievement levels as English-only students within 3 years. And I know that's ambitious. It's not supported by research at all. Most research says 4 to 7 years with high-quality instruction. And so I'm a little concerned that we're setting ourselves up for failure if we include that as a goal. There's a little piece in there that talks about how the school sites have been allocated funding, sort of, I guess, essentially for their site plans. Do we have the amount of money that each school is getting? I am assuming it's going to be based on their number of English learner and low socioeconomic students, but I don't know if that number is out there in public yet, or if that's something that's going to be coming later.
Soon.
Soon? Okay, because that's certainly something that I imagine school sites are, you know, parents that are currently involved with site councils are very concerned with those kinds of changes as well. There are other things that are going to be coming up, and so I appreciate that this is a first look at it. And if there aren't any other comments, Dr. Paz, you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, I also found a couple other things. There was a reference to like 30,000, and there was $1 million behind it or something like that in one of these things. I'm looking for it, but I can't find it again. So it's somewhere in here. There's $1 million comment somewhere, or reference to the amount. So just little errors here and there that I kind of saw. The other thing that I would also agree with my fellow board members that it's really challenging to kind of go through this, and you really have to, your eyes are going to pick up certain things, your eyes are not going to pick up other things based on it. So for my purposes, I agree it would be better to have a way to search through it, find things that that I'm looking for, that even the public would look for. I think that would be really important. The other thing too that I almost feel like is missing here, and I know this is not our form, but we have to find a way to, how are we going to chart our progress to all of these activities and goals, and how is that going to occur, and in reference to this sheet, how is that going to be related to? We're going to extend this out a couple of columns to look at it. I'm not sure in terms of that, so that would be interesting too, because we're going to be looking at it semi-annually, so I'd like to see some way of looking and charting progress towards that. So that's another comment. The other thing too that I think is also a piece as well is it is I think, really challenging for me to kind of look at this because it is sort of our first take, our first blush. And I still see us coming back a year from today and looking at maybe perhaps something even way different than this, you know, because this is our first take. And we may look at some of the goals this year and say, they may not have been the ones we really wanted to do. And I think we have to have that opportunity to really look back reflectively and say, was that the best goal? The other piece, too, as other people were talking about, is how can we relate this to our current strategic plan? How do they? I mean, have you thought about, Dr. Cash, about a crosswalk to look at some of these?
We have a matrix that identifies each goal to the strategic plan.
That would be wonderful to share with us
Sure.
and the public as well. Thank you.
All right.
So before you move on, I
Yes.
just want to share with you that we cannot change the form in
Yes.
any way. I
Yes.
can't put it in a form that's searchable. I can't expand the tables.
Mhm.
I can't do anything to the template. In fact, when it first came out, we were told we could not even have more space in the spaces than were allocated by the form. But that has subsequently changed because the font that, in order to put it in it, was too small. So,
And I understand that we can't change the form, this form.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we can't create our own.
correct.
So as a supplement.
Yes.
So let me make sure. Are you asking that we do that?
I'm thinking that at some point, we're going to have to do that regardless if this continues. So I don't know that we need it for this go-round.
Thank you.
But, but probably for the next years. And I have Ms. Limon and then Ms. Edelson.
So I just want to remind the public that there is one more LCAP presentation, and I would agree with Mr. Herron. It's worth listening to Dr. Cash's presentation, even if it's a summary, but I also questions asked. And some of them were comments, so it's a little bit of discussion, but I thought that that was great. And if I remember correctly, we were videotaping the last one at San Marcos.
Both have been videotaped. They'll
And so-
both be placed on the website.
So they're on the website. For people who are not able to attend the meeting tomorrow at Franklin, it's worth going to our website and watching the video.
Ms. Edelson.
I just wondered, how set in stone are these goals and how things are written? So basically, once the chart is filled out and we understand it, are we locked into these
Oh, no, we're locked in for the next school year.
for the next school year?
Yeah,
And
but
then-
I agreed with Dr. Paz. I mean, this is, first I want to congratulate Dr. Drotti and Mr. Handel and the LCAP committee. No school district is remotely close to where we are in relationship to this. In fact, I had 3 superintendents today contact me and request a copy of our LCAP because they haven't even started their committee meeting. So these guys have done an incredible job in getting us to this point in time so that we can have a rich discussion about it in the community. Those districts are going to have one public meeting, because that's all required by law, and it'll be the meeting right before the board approves it. So, but we know that this is going to be very different, I predict, as time goes on. I'm very hopeful that the State Board of Education listens to superintendents and creates a different kind of way to display the information. And the law very clearly states that I am required to bring it back to you at least once a year for you to make decisions as a board as to whether or not these goals are still the goals that you want to move forward with. And you've instructed me to do that more than annually, to do it at least semi-annually. So you'll get a progress report sometime, I don't think it'll be in December, probably in January, about what we've done, where we are in relationship to that, and you'll be able to say, these goals are good. Boy, we really need to rethink those goals when we look at it again in June.
Thank you, Mr. Herron.
Just one comment. When you mentioned that it's going to be on, the website, the San Marcos, I would urge everybody to watch it. If every student we had in the district was as vivacious as one young lady who spoke, I think she spoke for 20 or 30 minutes without taking a breath. I mean, she just unloaded, just an unbelievable unloading of information that is all pertinent to everyday life of a student. And we don't hear that very often. I thought it was wonderful.
All right, and with that, I'm going to close this public hearing. And we're going to move on to the action agenda and the conference agenda. I'm going to apologize to members of the public because we are running very late at this point, and but everything on here is very important. I'm just going to ask board members if it's all right with them, if at this point, given our earlier action, that I remove item H3, the discussion regarding interdistrict transfers on BP 51017. So I will remove item H3 from this agenda. And at this point, we're on to G1. This is the board action student discipline case number 2013/14-20. Do I have a motion? I have a motion on G2. This was the stipulated agreement for a suspended expulsion.
I move to approve the stipulated agreement. I move to approve the stipulated agreement for an
suspended expulsion.
Suspended expulsion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Mr. Herron, seconded by Idelson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. And then item G2, this is the petition for admission of an expelled student from a private school. So I need a motion to approve the admission of a particular expelled student from a private school pending proof of residency and a caregiver affidavit.
I make the motion.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Paz and seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. And now it's G3. This is the adoption of Resolution 2013/2014-39, designating April 29th, 2014 as Employee Appreciation Day. Dr. Cash.
This is an annual resolution, as Mr. Houchin stated. Teachers are extraordinarily valuable resource, but so are all of our classified employees as well. Our classified employees support our schools each and every day that they're open and ensure that everything happens in a classroom. And it's our opportunity to recognize each employee's contribution to the success of our students. And I'd be happy to read it to you, but it's the same appreciation resolution that the board has seen.
All right, and I assume we will be getting details later about the event itself?
Yes, Employee Appreciation Day, we'll certainly send that along.
All right, because there's normally some great activities associated with that. Mr. Herron?
Normally, we would read it, but in deference to time, I don't want it to be thought of as being less appreciative, but...
I'd be glad to read it, Mr. Herron.
I would move that we not read it and approve the resolution 2013/2014-39.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously, and we'll look forward to the 29th. And G4, this is the approval of resolution number 2013/2014-43 in support of the recognition of April as National Autism Awareness Month.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Board President Kate Parker, board members, Superintendent Dr. Cash, and Cabinet. On December 18, 2007, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 62/139, which declared April 2nd as World Autism Awareness Day, or WAAD. This UN resolution declares World Awareness Autism Day as one of the only 4 official health-specific United Nations days and brings the world's attention to autism, a pervasive disorder that affects tens of millions. The World Autism Awareness Day resolution encourages all member states to take measure to raise awareness about autism throughout society and to encourage early diagnosis and early intervention. It further expresses deep concern at the prevalence and high rate of autism in children in all regions of the world and the consequent developmental challenges. World Autism Awareness Day shines a bright light on autism as a growing global health crisis. WAAD activities help to increase and develop world knowledge of the autism epidemic and impart information regarding the importance of early diagnosis and early intervention. Additionally, WAAD celebrates the unique talents and skills of persons with autism and is a day when individuals with autism are warmly welcomed and embraced in community events around the globe. By bringing together autism organizations all around the world, a voice is given to the millions of individuals worldwide who are undiagnosed, misunderstood, and looking for help. The Santa Barbara Unified School District joins in the effort to inspire compassion, empowerment, and hope. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the administration to request that the board adopt the resolution in support of recognition of April as National Autism Awareness Month.
Thank you. And we have public comment on this.
Marsha Eichelberger, President, Autism Society of California.
President Parker, members of the school board, Dr. Cash, and administrators, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marsha Eichelberger, President of the Autism Society of California. April is Autism Awareness Month, and according to the latest report from the CDC, 1 in every 68 school-aged children is now being diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. That's 1 in every 42 boys, or in very immediate terms, 1 student in every other classroom throughout the Santa Barbara Unified School District. California continues to lead the nation in the highest number of individuals with autism. We conservatively estimate there are over 85,000 individuals living in California with autism. The California Department of Education reports there are 78,624 students as of December 2013 identified with autism who qualify for special education services. More locally, approximately 122 students with autism are currently being educated in the Santa Barbara Unified School Districts alone. Autism is a complex neurodevelopmental disability that typically appears during the first 2 years of life and affects a person's ability to communicate and interact with others. Autism is defined by a certain set of behaviors and is a spectrum disorder that affects individuals differently and to varying degrees. There's no known single cause for autism, but increased awareness and funding can help families today. As a society, we must step up our commitment to provide effective, evidence-based interventions for people with autism. Every parent and agency serving our community must work jointly and cohesively to develop appropriate programs for both our children and adults with autism. The time for action is now. The Autism Society designated April Autism Awareness Month in 1972 when the prevalence rate was less than 1 in 10,000 and autism was rarely mentioned and generally considered untreatable. Today, this observance provides an opportunity for the Autism Society to continue educating the public. This catastrophically high and continually increasing rate of autism among all racial, ethnic, and social groups highlights our ongoing need for education, particularly regarding early diagnosis of this complex developmental disorder. Autism Society of Santa Barbara is the only organization focused specifically on autism that provides local support and resources for individuals and families throughout the county.
30 seconds.
Through our pillars of advocacy, awareness, education, and support, we dedicate ourselves to empowering people to succeed in living with autism. During this month of worldwide recognition for autism spectrum disorders, please remember that a spectrum comprises countless colors, shades, and intensities of light. Our loved ones on the autism spectrum all shine brightly with their own hues and palettes, each distinct, yet none less essential to the beauty of the whole. Let us commit ourselves anew to recognizing, honoring, and including every member of our community, not just in April, throughout the year, because each new shade we add enhances all the others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will go ahead and read this resolution. This is a resolution in support of recognition of April as National Autism Awareness Month. Whereas April is recognized as National Autism Awareness Month by the Autism Society of America and Autism Speaks, and whereas autism spectrum disorders are a continuum of developmental disorders that impact individuals in the areas of learning, communication, and social interactions, and whereas 1 in 68 American children are on the autism spectrum, and 1 in 42 boys in the United States is identified as having an autism spectrum disorder, and whereas autism prevalence prevalence rates are growing, and it's the fastest growing developmental disability in the United States. And whereas each student with an autism spectrum disorder has a complex and individual constellation of strengths, needs, gifts, and challenges, and whereas the goal of National Autism Awareness Month is to provide the opportunity for the community at large to join together in raising awareness and increasing support for individuals with autism spectrum disorders, and whereas Santa Barbara Unified School District embraces this affirmation and pledges to provide a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment for each student with autism, and whereas Santa Barbara Unified School District currently is responsible for the education of approximately 122 students with autism, whereas Santa Barbara Unified School District commits to early intervention and research-based best practices so that students with autism have the foundation they need to access a full and successful life in school and beyond, and whereas Santa Barbara Unified School District recognizes that strong and collaborative efforts among families, schools, and communities are necessary to build those foundations, therefore be it resolved that the Santa Barbara Unified School District Board of Education continues to support the efforts of staff members, families, and the community that work together to provide success for every student with autism. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of resolution number 2013-14-43.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is item G5. This is the approval of the release of request for qualification proposals for the development of the Tatum site. Dr. Cash.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This item is as a conference item. We believe it's back on for action tonight at the request of the board.
Yes. Any comments, board members? Questions that have come up since the last time we saw this? Mr. Herron?
Just one question. Do we have somebody advising us when we get these responses back as to how to analyze them and decide which ones are good, bad, indifferent? Somebody who's expert in the field?
Yes, we do. We've secured counsel who's secured an expert.
Thank you.
Great. Can I have a motion then, please? Dr. Paz.
I make the motion to approve the release of a request for qualifications / proposals for development of the Tatum site.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Paz, seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passed unanimously and made Mr. Hetyonk's life a little bit easier. Item H1. We've been waiting for this for a long time. This is our conference agenda item on the Adelante Charter Schools petition for renewal. Dr. Cash.
Thank you very much, Madam President. As the board members are aware, this item was before the board for a public hearing matter. It is now on for conference. Adelante Charter is up for their 5-year renewal, and I have to say that while I was not here when it was renewed previously with numerous conditions, the petition for renewal, and more importantly, Adelante Charter School, appear from my vantage to be dramatically different and a wonderful place for our students to attend. Education Code Section 47605 requires that Santa Barbara Unified staff review very specific conditions and requirements in order to recommend renewal. While all the conditions and requirements are important, and all but one in their initial petition have been met, it is believed that the single area has already been taken care of in a meeting I had this afternoon with Principal Juanita Hernandez, that the petition for renewal presented to the board should be approved at the May 22nd, 2014 board meeting. Of significance from my perspective is the average growth of the Academic Performance Index, 28 points per year. Also importantly is the consistent growth each and every year for Adelante's significant subgroups: Hispanic, economically disadvantaged, and English learner students. In each and every year since 2009 and 10, Adelante Charter School has grown significantly more than the growth targets set by the state of California. The only area where Adelante Charter in this petition needed to provide additional information is related to their strategic plan to ensure that the demographics of Adelante Charter School reflect that of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. As I stated, I've met with Juanita Hernandez along with Emilio Handel, and we've reviewed their plan that seems to meet the needs of providing the additional information, and it will be included in their final petition to be presented to the board at on May 22nd. And with that, it is our staff's recommendation that their petition for renewal be approved.
And this isn't coming back to us?
April 22nd.
Okay. You did, there's, yeah, okay. Board members, first of all, we have public comment on this? All right, let's go ahead and take our public comment.
Juanita Hernandez, followed by Jack Rivas, followed by Holly Gill.
Good evening, or shall I say good night? Madam President, members of the board, and district cabinet. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the report that was developed by the district staff. It showed a thorough reading of our charter, and as you know, we worked really hard together to prepare that document for you. The area to address, as Dr. Cash stated, we worked on that collaboratively. I brought it over today, and I feel we have a very strong strategic plan to continue to address the ethnic and racial balance at our school, and we continue to change that and work on that each year. I want you to know that next year we have a waiting list of about 25 students, and we get calls just about every day, people who want to come over and take a look at the program. As Dr. Cash mentioned, we've been growing every year, and we knew once we were seeing the growth and turn the school around that the interest in the school would increase, and how fortunate students are in our community to have the opportunity to learn 2 languages when they can, and it's really easy for them. I want you to know that running Adelante School is truly a collaborative effort. We work really hard. We work together, parents, teachers, board members, and of course other staff members, and we want to thank the district for collaborating with us also. We're looking forward to the approvals that we can continue to offer two-way immersion to the students in our community. Thank you very much for your support.
Jack Rivas, followed by Holly Gill.
Excuse my casual attire. I was helping at baseball practice, not UCSB, little kids. My name is Jack Rivas, and I'm a member of the Adelante Charter School Board. And I have to say it has been a privilege and an honor to work on that board, to see the growth, the change in climate, the cooperative nature of that school has just been remarkable. When I first got there and I walked around the school, that is not the same school today. If I go on the school, I walk the grounds, I talk to the students, I talk to the faculty, the staff, and the students. It is a very, very different environment. It is an environment that really is looking to enrich the quality of education and enrich the quality of the students' lives. So it's not just about education. It's not just about dual language immersion. It is about really creating the most opportunity for all of these students. It really is a mixing of the head, the heart, and the hand. It's a very unique place. I'm grateful for the comments you made, Dr. Cash, and I hope that that will be true on May 22nd, and we can be approved as a charter for the next 5 years. Thank you.
On April 22nd,
April
yes.
22nd. Holly Gill.
Good evening. It's always nice to be back here. I am representing the School Site Council and Curriculum Committee, and I serve as president of that group, and I am honored to serve on that committee with teachers and parents and with Juanita, and it's really an amazing group of people. One of my favorite things about Adelante Charter School is the Si Se Puede attitude that we have. We all carry it. It is not just words that we say. It saturates everything we do. And I am just amazed at the staff who will tackle anything. We can do it. Well, let's try it. I don't know, it's never been done before. Let's just give it a try and see if we can make it happen. This sounds like it would be great for kids. And the barriers to success have been removed. Juanita has done everything in her power to make sure that teachers have what they need and supporting those teachers. And there is accountability there, but there's also support, appropriate support for everyone. And that extends to the students. And as Jack said, there's really this this culture, and it's a culture of achievement. We talked about it in the charter, the initial charter, and it's in it again. And we were really charged with, as a curriculum committee, school site council, how do we create this culture of achievement? This climate where every single person on campus that interacts with the children is aligned with these expectations that we are here to support these students and have them be successful. And I can say right now that that is happening at the school. And that came with really focusing in on student thinking. Teachers looked in at their own individual practices and refining those practices, seeing themselves as a community of learners, and they work so incredibly hard. I am so proud to have my children there attending. This focus on student thinking is promoted in every single classroom. Teachers have strategies to capture that thinking, individual and collective thinking in the classroom. They capture it, they have it visible in their classrooms by using GLAD strategies to support the students, and you'll see it if you walk into classrooms. The individual student thinking it's valued and it's promoted, and it's visible in every classroom, like I said. And then there has been a focus on inquiry.
30 seconds, Holly.
Okay, through the math and the science, of course, I have been supporting and am so proud of that, and this connection to the outdoors anywhere that that's possible. I just think it's really enriched the entire experience, so thank you.
All right, board members. Dr. Paz.
You know, I want to echo the same comments that Dr. Cash made about the growth over the last 3-4 years. The one thing that when I read the staff report and I looked at the growth, and it's like, oh, wow, you know, and I have to confess that when I looked at your numbers a number of years before this, and I was looking at the numbers and I'm going, just because part of my job, I sometimes look at API numbers across the county, which I was doing actually today. I was looking at your numbers and I was going, what is happening there? That was before this. And obviously you all recognize that it probably wasn't where you want it to be, and now it's definitely in the trajectory where you want it to be. So I congratulate you all for doing that, and that's exactly what we want to see in all of our schools, whether it's a charter school or schools or not. And I think that in itself speaks volumes to the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Herron.
Yeah. I just want to say I opened this document with trepidation because it's very dear to my heart, and read it, yes, 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 no. And, oh, the no's the correct answer. That was a good part, you know. And so there's some no's that are good. And, you know, so I got through the whole document and found, you know, the one area. And so I went to as I mentioned, I went to the Adelante school board meeting last night. And obviously the thing on their mind when Juanita gave her principal's report was this one item on this report. And there must have been a 30-minute discussion on it and what it meant and what they can do about it. I mean, they were taking it really, really seriously. So I had with me a satchel, probably a foot wide, just with paperwork out of it. That was my Adelante file from 2010. And I put it on the table and I said, you know, 4 years ago, this is what you were faced with. Now you've got one item. Don't worry about it. Get it done, and everything will be okay. So I just was so very pleased at what's happened in the last 4 years. What a change. I mean, what a great change across the board, and I surely appreciate it.
Ms. Limon?
So it's funny, I'm having just a lot of mixed emotions being here now, because 4 years ago I wasn't here, and I remember being, I had just started, well, I think it was right after, I went through everything that Adelante went through, and then started as a board member there. And I remember seeing just a really long list and so much work, and it was so hard at the time. And I cannot believe 4 years later what all the parents, the students, the teachers, Juanita, everybody has come together to do, because it was such a different place 4 years ago. I even think the the Adelante Charter School, well, it was Cesar Chavez, then Adelante, school meetings even rivaled the length and time as the Santa Barbara Unified meetings. I remember some really late meetings. And I have to in some ways thank Ms. Parker and Mr. Herron, because now being on this side and just watching what we've gone through with every charter petition and all those comments that were very hard, I mean, there was a long list, ended up in real great success for the students. And I think that it was hard. I remember it being hard for everybody 4 years ago. But you know, there's hard moments, I think, as school board members, and I just, gosh, oh my gosh, this is great to be here with one item. And it was one item that also, I think, besides the racial and ethnic balance, there was a lot of emphasis on the linguistic balance as well, and how important that was for the model of dual immersion. So I'm full of a lot of really great feelings right now, but those great feelings didn't come out of magic. They came out of a lot of work, and also work from the district and the board members. So I think just a lot of thanks go out to everybody involved.
I will say I could actually get really emotional right now, because that was hard. That was, and as hard as it was for me on my side, as we dealt with essentially telling the old charter school that we had here that really the way they were going, they were not going to be able to continue. I know how much harder it was to hear that on the opposite side. And the hundreds of people and the meetings at Santa Barbara High School around this, it was a very, very difficult time. And I so appreciate the group that started Adelante, the parents, the staff, that stuck with it and put so much work in. Because honestly, when I looked at how much work there was to be done at the time, I thought, this is crazy. They can't do this. I don't care about si se puede. This is going to be too much. This is a lot of work. And I have been so impressed over the past 4 years. I have been so impressed with everything that you have done, the spirit of joy and determination that you've moved forward with it. There could have been, wallowing in hurt feelings. There could have been being, stuck in the past. And I really feel like you've done the best thing for students at your school. And what I look for when I'm looking at a charter, either a new petition or a renewal, I want to see that, the group coming forward has really put in-depth reflection, made changes based on development over time. Things don't stay the same. What are the needs? And I just feel like you've really put forward an exemplary charter petition renewal. I also go back and look at how students have done. And when I look back at the previous iteration of the school, when it was Cesar Chavez, and I look at the students, and you can look at the overall growth rates, but I'm really looking at English learners and low socioeconomic, looking down at the subgroups. When those students at the time, they were in the mid-500s. And they were so much lower. I mean, there were disparities of 200 points between some of our higher achieving schools for those subgroups. It was very worrisome. And when I look at it now and I compare where let's stop with that, where Adelante is compared to our other schools, you're right in the mix. You're higher than some, lower than others. I feel like you are doing right by your students. And so I really appreciate that, and thank you. I'm looking forward to approving this on April 22nd. I do also want to take a moment and appreciate that you're going to come forward with a strategic plan. We care that students are not represented demographically at any of our schools. So we cared a lot about this when it was that Santa Barbara Charter did not have a representation from Latino students. We care now that your school does not have the representation from white students. So I look forward to seeing that and making sure that it is as thoughtful and as articulated as what Santa Barbara Charter eventually came forward with. I just want to be sure that it's accessible to students across the South Coast, that they understand, of any background, that they understand what it can bring to them. So thank you, kudos, and I look forward to seeing it at our next meeting. Boy, it's so nice. Any other comments? All right, well, with that, you may leave, go to bed, and we'll move on to H2, this is the discussion of Santa Barbara High School's Computer Science Academy. Dr. Cash.
Juanita, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm visiting Adelante, so yes. Thank you very much, Madam President. Santa Barbara High School has a Computer Science Academy proposal they'd like to bring forward. We have the Principal, John Becchio, here, and Assistant.
Thank you very much for having us tonight and considering this proposal. I just wanted to say a couple things before I introduce our all-stars that have joined us tonight. Computer science has really, at Santa Barbara High, has reached a point where we are actually more than just a couple elective classes. We are actually more than just a pathway, a traditional pathway, which would be an intro, middle, and capstone course. And the folks tonight are going to paint a picture of that for you so you understand why we're asking for you to consider it as an academy. We're also considering facility, and we do have a facility space. We have some vision of what we want to do with that space. But second, I want you to know this before they come up, and that is that really every policy, every question, every item that really comes up around this program, I'm putting through the filter of access. And the reason I say that to you is because I've been very intent on structuring this in a way that does not exclude parts of our community. And I think that's important for me to say in front of you because I think that might be on your mind in terms of academy. And they're going to talk about equity and access, but I need you to know that Paul is new. You're going to meet him in a minute. He's new to education. Actually, he's not new. He came back into education after a while, but I think he thinks I'm crazy because everything he brings me, I run it through that filter and we have a discussion about access to this program. And so I'll introduce them and let them talk a little bit more about that, but we'd be happy over the next couple weeks, I'd be happy to show you, answer questions, discuss that issue with you. So with that said, we did bring, there's some parents here tonight, but we also did bring Elise Simmons, who's heavily involved in the A through G application process for our courses and the signups of kids to our courses. I also have Paul Moole, who is just a superstar who we got from industry. He's now teaching at Santa Barbara High. And then we have another superstar, Joseph Velasco, who is an English teacher. If you're wondering why we brought an English teacher, it's because he does have a student, a child of his own that's interested in coding. But Joseph's one of those guys on campus who's very interested in equity and access as well. So he's a part of our committee to form this program the right way around those two issues. Paul, Joseph.
Hello. My name is Paul Mull, and thank you for having me. We have a few slides to speak to that I sent earlier, a different document than this one, just a couple, and then we can get into that one as well. John is crazy, by the way, but we share that.
Not that one.
Not that.
Well, we can talk about that one.
There we go. Just a couple of slides here. If we could go to the next one. I'm so you might need to scale that down a little bit too. I'm so personally involved in computer science that I forget that not everyone is. And so what I wanted to do with the first slide is just kind of provide a little bit of background of what the backdrop is for computer science education nationally, statewide, and locally. And I don't know if you guys have seen some of these graphics before. They've certainly made the rounds, and this is why I want to sort of bring attention to them. You probably already know that people are paying more attention to computer science. In the fall, there was a big buzz about Computer Science Education Week. There was the Hour of Code that was put on by code.org, which is where I got these graphics here. There are a couple of bills currently up in the state legislature, AB 1764 and 2110, that have to do with computer science education. You know that we live in a digital world. It's impossible to be somewhere and not be in touch with some kind of microchip with code on it that somebody wrote. Even the light switches at the building where I work in my second job have little chips that control when the lights come on and off. It's not just our computers and our phones. You know that Santa Barbara is a high-tech center, but maybe when we look at these graphics here, we can kind of get a picture of living in this digital world. Education seems to be a little bit behind. So you look in the upper left, and these are national statistics, but you see that only 1 out of 10 schools provides a computer programming class. 9 out of 10 don't. The statistics for the state of California, which I don't have up here, are roughly the same, though. It's about 15% in the state of California that offer a computer science course. If you move over to the right, the bar chart shows just some numbers on AP enrollment. And so I know that's some small typing and hard to read, but you see history, English, science, math, et cetera, going down the line. Computer science basically doesn't even show up here. It's the far right, and it's 0.7%. And within that, there's another little pie chart graphic that shows of that small group that's taking computer science, only 25% represent Hispanic Americans, African Americans, or women. So we've got some challenges there, and we're meeting these challenges head on, we think, locally. We've come a long way this year. I look around at Dr. Cash and John Becchio here, and I think about the Partners in Education meeting where we were in September, and just everything that's happened since then. I'm just completely amazed and excited about it. We have gone from one class at Santa Barbara High 2 years ago to 2 separate classes, 3 sections this year, and next year we're going to be offering 4 courses, 4 separate courses. I just got some numbers hot off the presses this morning, preliminary from counseling, that we had 150 kids roughly signed up for computer science next year, which more than doubles last year, which more than doubles the previous year. So the word is out. There's a lot of interest. People are excited, and I'm definitely excited. Next slide. So Wine Academy, you heard John mention something about how we're more than just a series of electives within the department. We already this year have started reaching out. We've got some parent involvement to help us with our goals. We've reached out to industry partners. We are talking with them about things like internships, mentoring. We'd like to do some field trips both locally and further, for example, up in Silicon Valley. We'd like to enable our students to do lots of different things outside the classroom as well. We'd like them to be a part of not only the Robotics Club, which has been around as a student-run organization at Santa Barbara High for a while, but also coding competitions, which are very common and popular among, say, universities and a few other high schools around the nation. And we're definitely looking at getting into that sort of thing starting next year. We're more than just a pathway as well. I've had some conversations with Dean Nevins at Santa Barbara City College. I have some connections to UCSB and Cal Poly. We have a breadth of courses that we're that we're offering as of next year. But we also have plans for integrating curriculum within not just math and science, which are obvious starting points, but also beyond that. So lots of things that we can do and would like to do to make this a very rich experience for our students and also involve the community at all levels in what we're doing. The next slide talks about equity, access, and diversity. I'm going to bring Joe up here in just a second, but I just wanted to mention that when we look at the numbers from this year, and again, I haven't had a chance to really look at what we've got in terms of signups. I just got numbers this morning for next year. But the biggest challenge is going to be recruiting girls. Girls are the largest underrepresented population in computer science. And for example, in my AP class, I have 2. They're doing fantastic. I'm proud to say. And it's just getting the message out there that this is somewhere for you, this is something you can do, and you might even really love it. So with that, I will turn over this slide to Joe.
Okay, thanks. Good evening. I'm a little tired. Yeah, as John mentioned, beyond my own kid, here's what I've seen. The reason I'm an English teacher and I'm here is the adage that knowledge is power. As an English teacher, I teach my students that language is power and coding is a language. And the fact that students are coming into the 21st century not knowing this language, that we need to get to a point where computer science and coding is beyond just something that's a niche, but really this idea that it's just everything, that our students are really amazing, and all of you are probably amazing consumers of technology, but you're not creators of technology, and that's where the power is. This year there would be 70,000 new jobs in coding available, but I don't know if California has enough students, and students who are taking computer science classes are able to fill that void. And so Silicon Valley is reaching out to other countries such as India who are filling that void. And so why not grow our own California students here? My goal with equity and access, beyond pushing my own avid students into computer science, and many of them are taking it next year and I'm excited for them, is this idea that we have a feeder school pattern, Santa Barbara Junior High, Cleveland and Franklin particularly coming to Santa Barbara High, and my goal is to hopefully create programs much like are happening at Washington and Peabody, where there are coding classes happening after school, but to make sure that those similar coding classes are offered at those schools as well. We want kids as early as 3rd grade, 4th grade taking these classes, so by the time they get to our high school, we are offering more than just 4 sections, more than just a few AP classes, but really hopefully changing the culture. That this is language. This is like learning Spanish. This is like learning music. And the bottom line is this. When the kids I've seen who take my wife's class, for instance, what they're doing is honing in on their natural curiosity, right? It's computational thinking. It's curiosity. It's fun. And when they create something from scratch, and that's actually the name of the program they're using called Scratch, that they can actually show, it's a pretty amazing thing because they own it. And they realize that this tool, this cell phone, this iPad, this computer is more than just to play games, but they can create something. And that's where we're going to demystify computer science and say it's not just for nerds, it's for everybody. And we as a high school, and I think in our district, have the ability to be at the forefront of this. I don't know that many schools or districts that are pursuing this at this level, and I'm excited by the future of what this brings. And so we're going to push everything we can to make sure it's open to not just Santa Barbara High School, but eventually out to our other schools as well.
Thank you. Board members? Or do we have more to, oh, you're going,
Oh, and this
you have more. You have more slides, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things about the academy structure that's a little different is making sure, that we've talked about this being this open access ladder, that students can come in at any level. If they've never done coding before, they can take a beginning coding class and see if they like it. Santa Barbara City College has an amazing program as well that they can then jump on. UCSB has an amazing computer science program that's world renowned. And so with those resources, and then we now live in what is now being considered Silicon Beach. Santa Barbara has a lot of software companies. Malibu also has a lot of software companies. And hopefully we want our students to not only be a part of that, whether through internships and so forth, but making sure that young women, young men of all persuasions know about these classes. The reason I'm so excited about getting into the feeder schools is if a student doesn't know it exists, how do they know they want to take it? And I think that's really where I'm sort of approaching it. Then you show a kid, hey, this is really fun and this is really cool. I have not seen a single kid taking the Scratch class who said, wow, this is boring. As a matter of fact, they're asking, can we have more classes? Can I take this class again? And that's really where we're seeing that sort of where we can go with this program. All right.
Great, thank you. Board members, comments? Dr. Paz.
When you mentioned that, one of the goals is to not only increase diversity, but also kind of grow our own in terms of this country's representation in terms of the number of openings for computer programmers You mentioned 70,000. Maybe not all of those are going to be filled, but maybe filled with people who are coming across an entire ocean just to work here. And it made me remember and recall when I actually walked at UCSB for grad ceremony, and I'm sitting there, and I'm one of a small number of people in education getting my PhD. And then I look at the computer science people, and they're a huge group of people, and they're just the masters, right, and then the PhD folks, but the masters were huge. And I'm looking at that crowd of people, and then they go up, the number of people, and I'm looking at the number of, in my, not knowing all of the individuals, but just making some really large assumptions about who our computer science graduates were. And a lot of them were, as you describe, a lot of students from across an entire ocean, from India. I'm just remembering all the names, and I'm going, well, what is happening that we're not filling up those same spaces with students who were born and raised here locally, and can go to UCSB and take advantage, as you're saying, of a great program that exists here. And so I think this is an example of one way to do that, of filling those spaces with not only students that are grown locally, but also tapping into a portion of our population who hasn't traditionally been represented in this field, and especially when you look at young women, that in particular is a huge thing of outreaching to that community. So I always want to say that I thank you for taking that approach and looking at it that way for everyone who's involved. And John and Elise, I think that's a good reflection of your leadership and taking a good look at that and saying, what is the gap? What are we missing here? And obviously that is a big gap, so I want to thank you for doing that. And it looks really great. The only question I had in terms of all this is, do you see a little bit of overlap in terms of the robotics component that you described in the academy with that of DP? And if so, no or yes?
I'll
or
let Paul speak to more of that, but no.
No, I really don't. I honestly don't know DP's program that well, I have to admit, but I do know that the Santa Barbara program is and always has been student-run, and really what we're doing is the software side, whereas the robotics is, especially from what I've heard the description of DP, kind of more of the hardware, mechanical engineering side of things. We think we're complementary.
And I'll just speak going back to my own son. My son was in a robotics competition for a couple of years, and there was members of the team that built the robots. My son didn't care about that. He programmed the robots. That's what he was interested in. And so he has no interest to go to DP because he doesn't want, he's not interested in that. He's interested in the actual programming of stuff, like being on the laptop and figuring those things out. And that's really sort of the difference between software and hardware.
Any other comments? Ms. Idelson?
Well, my enthusiasm for this is boiling over because I feel so much that the time is right for the Computer Science Academy at Santa Barbara High. I know from my own children's experience, when they've gotten to college, 3 of them have done technical computer science, and the job opportunities have been so great. And this is an example of being college and career ready for the future. So really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this for the administration and parents. And I know 2 of my kids have already offered a field trip to Google anytime. They're ready to, they decided, well, we could take double the number of the kids because there's 2 of them. So lunch on them. Right.
Nice.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Herron.
We have a comment from a member of the audience that says MIT undergraduates starting salaries, males 180,000, women 200,000. We need this. So I don't think there's any doubt that we need this. And I have a couple of technical questions. If you could go to bottom of page 5 of the agenda item. They aren't numbered, so I have to go through page 5. Under eligibility.
Yep.
There's a sentence that says there's going to be a cap of 20 students for the master program each year due to space limitations. And then it says, and students who are the first to sign up, starting in February, will be given first consideration. Do you really mean that? I mean, we've had situations where, hey, you can sort of tell who's going to be the first ones to sign up, and it sort of defeats the whole purpose of all your other diversification things. I mean, will they really get first consideration, or are you going to look at the whole application pool and decide on some basis who's going to be in the program?
That's a very good point. And actually, this was brought to my attention previous to this meeting, so I have put a little bit of thought into it, and it's something that we're definitely going to need to, as a group, put more thought into it. The number 20 was just sort of a guess that we came up with a while ago, and we know that we're going to have to revise and revisit a lot of these things.
I was really worried about the first consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, at 9 o'clock, you start getting applications that I can tell you, you can find 20 that you really want and have them be there first.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. We're going to have to think of a different way to do that. I'm not sure that, first come, first served is the right way. No. I agree.
Yes, I think the Los Angeles firefighters might agree with that as well.
Yeah. If you could look at the admission question document, the CS Master Program Mission, at the exhibit at the end. I had this question maybe a month ago when I saw this, and I still have a question about it. The top of the second page of the actual agreement, and maybe it's just a technical question.
Yes.
But the question is, are you currently living in the Santa Barbara Unified School District? And it's a yes or a no. And then it says, if no, are you planning to apply for a district transfer by February 18th? Is the intent there, because we don't take inter-district transfers. So if somebody doesn't live in our district, they can't get in. Is the intent really, do you live in the Santa Barbara High School boundary? And if no, are you going to apply for a transfer to the Santa Barbara High School? Is that the real intent behind those two questions?
I think that is correct, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it gives the impression that maybe somebody from Carpinteria can join the group and just get asked for a transfer. I don't think that's the intent.
No, I believe you're right. And the idea there, of course, was just making sure that if it's someone who was going to be doing a transfer from one school to the other, that they were serious about it, so we could be serious about our numbers.
Right, and I think just the terminology there needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
We are very aware that, or at least I am, I'm not sure if Paul is, but that we don't accept the transfers outside our district in. So we can change the wording on that to be in district.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to ask the question, because if you have somebody from San Marcos who wants to come to this, they have to do it, by a certain date. And the question is your intent to do that? And I think it's a valid question.
Thanks
if they
for
say
pointing
no,
that
we're
out.
not going to.
Yeah, we can make that change if that's what's needed. So thank you.
Ms. Simone?
I would agree with both of the changes or recommendations that Mr. Herron suggested. I think those would be important. As luck would have it, I had an undergrad who worked on the Scratch program, so I don't know if the little cat still comes up, but I'm a little familiar with the Scratch program, and I have to say that she's first generation, college bound, and also comes from a working class family, and now is trying to decide between which PhD acceptance she's going to go to: Carnegie Mellon, UCLA, UC Merced, all with full funding. So much needed work in that area, and that leads me to the percentage of women, ladies, in the program. I was so excited when I saw that there was a racial and ethnic balance with the 47%, and then I saw the number of women in the single digits, and that really stood out for me. Also, knowing how hard it's been for at least higher education to increase the number of women in computer science and engineering programs has been particularly difficult, and a lot of investment, both financial and human investment, has been made. So that's an area that I'll definitely be watching. and thinking about in some ways, because so many incredibly intelligent people have come together and it's still a problem. It's very hard. I love the idea of a program at Franklin and Cleveland. I know some of our other elementary schools have. I think it got started at Washington. That's where it was first piloted, if I remember correctly, based on her research poster. She said something about that. So I also think our business community would really appreciate this, because I know in the high school graduation committee, this has come up multiple times, and just about the need and importance. I think the bigger questions that are more for the district than they are for the school site is, how do we think about the number of academies that come forward and our support? I think it requires human support, but also the physical space support and the financial support. I know that as some of them are in our district longer, they come forward with MOUs and want to negotiate different levels of support. And you know, I'm supportive of this, and also think of what happens when the next school comes and the next academy, and at what point is this model of academies at schools sustainable, financially and human. And I don't know that we have those answers, but I would be remiss not to actually mention it, because it is a long-term issue that I think we need to think about. So I'm supportive of this, and I look forward to seeing how you do with ladies this new enrollment period. So, yeah.
I'll say at this point that I think that you've done a really nice job. You're addressing our board policy and coming forward with a program of choice, essentially. And I think you've done a nice job of hitting all the points. Like Ms. Idelson, I know that this has been in the works for a really long time, and it's been a dream of a lot of parents at Santa Barbara High School. And I'm so pleased that with leadership and with the right teachers in place that this is moving forward. I think I need more details about your plan to get girls to apply. I think it needs to be more specifics about, and before this comes forward for action, I would really like to see more on that. And one question that I have, and I picked up on the exact same point that Mr. Herron did, the idea of first come, first serve, which won't work. And I think a lot of places will do it simply as a lottery. If you've met all the criteria, where we will lottery you in. So the question is then, is it that you just have a big enough applicant pool from every demographic at Santa Barbara High School that you're going to get a sort of a representation there? Obviously, there are a lot of legal issues around how you can structure a lottery. And so I think one of my questions for Dr. Cash would be, can a lottery like this, if there were a lottery that came forward, can it assign a specific number of seats for girls versus boys? So that's a question that I would have, because I can
answer that.
Oh, Dr. Cash, please answer that.
The United States Department of Education just released guidelines for doing exactly that for charter schools and programs of choice. Weighted lotteries.
So you can run a weighted lottery that weights for girls, for example.
Yeah,
so that,
or anything.
Or anything. Yeah. Okay, so that's great to know. That might be something that we want to take into account. Picking up on what Mr. Herron caught at the end of your document about transfers into the Santa Barbara Unified School District, it's really common for people to confuse the term boundary and district. So on page 7 of this document, and that's the one that's right below district requirements, and it starts, the CS Academy would not displace students. So I can see that it's on page 7, so you might want to number your document.
I hand-numbered my copy.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There it is. The CS Academy would not displace students, although it may cause a modest increase in enrollment from students from outside the Santa Barbara High School district. And I think the intention there is the Santa Barbara High School boundaries over what might have been expected. So if you make the wording change there, But other than that, I think that this is great. I think that there's a really high chance that this is going to be extremely successful, and I look forward to seeing it maybe on a consent agenda at some point in the future, depending on what comes forward in terms of your girl plan. Ms. Idelson.
I just wanted to ask, Paul, could you speak a little bit to the computational art class being maybe more attractive to girls? I know that that's been talked about.
Yeah, definitely. One of the appendices that you got was the staff biographies, staff and advisory panel. And you'll see myself and Joe there. And then in the lower right, there's Dr. Zoe Wood. And she's been very helpful to the program as well. And she helped develop curriculum for a course called Computational Art, which we are offering next year. And it's based on a class that she herself teaches at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. And one of her passions, besides just computer graphics, which is what her PhD is in, is getting girls involved in STEM and computer science in particular. And she's done a lot of research individually and with her department about how to attract more girls, for example. And what they've found is interest-based courses are huge, and one interest-based course that has worked really well for them is this computational art course. So you learn how to program, and you do it with fine art concepts. And there's a program called Processing, which you actually use to do this. And this processing program is written in Java, and you write Java-like commands, and you hit a little button, and it draws shapes and animations and shading and color and all this sort of stuff. So she's helped us adapt her quarter-long course to be a year-long course at the high school with the explicit goal of having this be one of our ways to attract more girls. And as Ms. Limon pointed out, and she probably saw the numbers come out of UC Berkeley this year, they're just announcing for their very first time 50% enrollment in their introductory computer science course. You may have been alluding to that. And that's huge. So there is progress being made. Zoe has also helped me with other research that she's dug up from places like Georgia Tech, where they also look at the same questions and have evaluated and reevaluated their introductory courses to see not only what makes general retention happen within their major, but also specifically for girls.
Thank you.
I would highly recommend that you consult with the Dos Publius Engineering Academy, as they have 50% girls in their engineering academy and have had for a number of years. They have very specific strategies that they've engaged in to get girls enrolled in that academy.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing that, this program come forward sometime in the near future. Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thanks for your patience for sitting through for so long. Really nice job. And thank you for parents who've lingered in the audience. Moving on to item H4, we're skipping H3, and we will come to that at a future agenda item, as a future agenda item. That's the BP 51017 change. This is H4, the general update report on the restorative approaches practice in our junior highs and Santa Barbara High School.
Yes. I think Aaron's, yeah, he's still here. All right. Aaron Harkey, who's our teacher on special assignment, and Mr. Tarina.
So for the board members, in respect to the time that we have, there was two presentations that we had. There was going to be a quick overview of what the restorative approaches looks like in our schools, because it's been a long time, a couple of years since we've actually had that introductory. And there's also the actual data that's been, that Mr. Harkey has compiled over the last year regarding the one high school and the 4 junior highs that have implemented restorative approaches. I would like to just defer to you as far as your desire to see the restorative approaches overview, and or just go straight to the data that Mr. Harkey has acquired.
Pardon, Ms. Limon?
I don't know if...
You want to see everything, yeah?
Well, I was going to leave it to Dr. Paz and Ms. Idelson to see. I don't know if they've had everything. I would be okay with data, but I would leave it to.
Seen it, but Dr. Paz and Ms. Idelson, have you?
You know, it's one of those areas that I have, because of my wife and because of running for school board, needed to do a lot of research on. So I'm okay with just going to the data.
I've watched a training and all, so I'm fine too.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. Harkey, we'll just go straight to the restorative approaches PowerPoint. Mr. Handout, please.
Thank you. And thanks for having us here this evening. We've been trying to get onto the agenda a few times, and now I know why we didn't. So as Mr. Trena was alluding to, the data that we're going to look at pertains to our 4 junior highs and Santa Barbara High School. And as we can go forward, thank you, Mr. Handel. As we started out this school year, we were looking for some measures of success, some ways that we could measure success. So the first thing that we looked at, or I decided to try and look at, was to establish a 5-year average baseline for suspensions prior to implementation. So overall suspensions in our 4 junior highs and Santa Barbara High School per year on average 839.5 or 0.25, and that's not per school, that's all schools, all those schools. For the first semester 5-year average, we're looking around 359. First semester of this year, 251, so that's a decrease of 30% from the 5-year average. Hispanic and Latino students make up 79, almost 80% of those overall suspensions. As of first semester, we're looking at a 3% decrease. Suspensions for white students over the 5 years previous, 15.8, and we're looking at almost an 8% increase as of first semester, close of first semester this school year.
Can I just jump in right there and ask for larger picture data? In the secondary district, what percentage of students are Latino and what percentage of students are white?
Okay, that speaks to our disproportionality data. We have about, which I don't have with me, so I'm going to get you close.
Okay.
About 62% Hispanic Latino, and then virtually the remainder white, and our other racial ethnic subgroups are not statistically impactful.
So over 30% white, like 35%, something like that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that sound close, Dr. Cash? Yes. Okay. I can send that to you. I do have that data, and that's part of our RA training data also. And can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So one thing that we did also to try and gauge success in our implementation, we created surveys for our teachers. I created a survey for the 4 junior highs. Santa Barbara High also created their own survey. So the responses here are survey questions that we had in common. You'll also notice that the percentages do not add up to 100%, and they were done in Google Forms and SurveyMonkey. So for the agree, I consolidated the strongly agrees and the agrees to come up with that number, and I left out the slightly agree and the ambivalent ones, and then I did the same for the disagrees. So that's why they don't equal 100. But RA is positively influencing teaching practice. We have 52% of our teachers agree, 14% disagree. 50% agree that it's improving classroom environment, and again, 14% disagree. Those may be the same people. Just saying. This is nice. Almost 62% overall agree that RA has a positive influence on student-teacher relationships. 63% agree that they're trying to use informal RA dialogue in class, and that's a big part of our training is practicing how to de-escalate situations with certain interpersonal communication tools. So that's encouraging. 13% disagree. As Dr. Cash was saying, it's not perfect. It is a lot of heavy lifting for some of our teachers and staff. This slide represents Santa Barbara Junior High in particular, because Santa Barbara Junior High is our only site that's gone through a full year of implementation. So in the first year of RA implementation, Santa Barbara Junior High had 60 suspensions. That's a decrease of 51% from the previous school year and a decrease of 74% from the 4 years previous, which is the baseline average. Also for Hispanic Latino students, Hispanic student suspensions were 38 out of that 63% of the total, which is a 23% decrease from the year before. White student suspensions at 17 show a 14% increase from the year before. So in this first full year of implementation, we see the disproportionality gap in terms of racial ethnic identity starting to close a little bit. As of close of first semester this year, Santa Barbara Junior High seems to be maintaining this. Their suspension rate is the same first semester as it was last year, within one suspension, and we're seeing a similar racial ethnic breakdown. And that's where we're at. So, any questions, please?
Thank you. Ms. Limon.
Just, this is going to be on television, so I think just for clarity purpose, I want to get you to speculate why there's an increase in white student suspensions. My guess is that when you see a decrease in the largest number of individuals, it then means that there's either no movement or it just changes the actual number of individuals that you can aggregate into the statistical percentages you've given us. But I mean, because the goal is that everyone decreases, but we've seen that, yeah.
Yes, well, that is correct. The goal would be that overall suspensions decrease dramatically. Students are in their seats. They're feeling connected to school. Beyond just discipline, restorative approaches is about shifting cultures in classrooms and buildings so that students aren't acting out in ways that would get them suspended. In terms of the increase in white suspensions at Santa Barbara Junior High, suspensions are crazy, or things happen at school that are kind of crazy. And when we look at a case-by-case basis, instead of just looking at kind of a punitive rule book about, okay, you did that, now that's going to get suspended, there are a lot of suspensions that, or a lot of things that we have suspended for that we don't need to suspend for. This data still represents fighting, possession, the big five. So I can't really speculate on why that 14% increase happened. I can say that in approaching everything on a case-by-case basis and encouraging students to think about making restitution instead of just a punitive approach to their behavior, it has, throughout the course of that last school year and this school year, really turned our data upside down a few times. For instance, at one point last school year, the biggest subgroup of our suspensions was 7th grade white girls, which we had never seen before. But that was a result of some things that that a group of girls were involved in.
Okay. All right, so, but there, I want to be clear that restorative approaches is equally being applied to all the classrooms, all the students, and so it really is just more a function of a new program where you see influx or just change in data as opposed to it being implemented differently amongst groups.
That's correct. What we're trying to do is actually implement discipline the same for everybody.
For everybody. Thank you. And I do have to say that one of the things I didn't realize about restorative approaches is how much like Common Core it was going to be. So many complicated questions that you have to keep asking yourself and the individuals involved. And I think this really came after spending an hour and 45 minutes talking to the principal at Santa Barbara Junior High School. And I was like, wow, this is just like Common Core. You're asking questions. And yes, I did something wrong is not the right, it's not a good enough answer. You have to really get down to it. So it really does line up with what we're doing with Common Core.
It does. And we encourage teachers to try and run community circles in their classes. And in doing that with one of our teachers at Goleta Valley, after a day of doing that with her classes, that was her exact comment also. This is Common Core, listening and speaking.
Other board members? I think I'm curious to hear, I'm sure you're getting the full range of comments back from teachers as they talk about this. And this is sort of a nice summary, but if we went down to the nitty-gritty, we would see more of the pros and cons, and certainly more cons than we're talking about tonight. And I'm curious, just from what you've heard, what do you see as some of the things that teachers are most concerned about? I mean, I would imagine time, and feeling like administrators are themselves, if they've sent a kid to an administrator for a restorative approaches versus a suspension issue, is the administrator spending the appropriate amount of time to deal with this so that the consequences and any restorative approach is really effective and not just something that's rushed through? That's just what I'm thinking. I don't know what you're hearing, and I'd love it if you could share a little bit more about that with the board.
That's exactly correct. From teachers up through administration, the challenge of time is one of the hardest things. Also, we have to start thinking about things differently and being more creative about how we approach students when things go wrong, and getting creative about how to do that so that it's not a suspension, but there is still something real that takes place and it's not just an apology, is not something that a lot of teachers and administrators are used to thinking about when they're approaching a discipline problem. Time. Also, there is a feeling in some teachers and or administrators that there needs to be punishment, that there should be something punitive that's happening. My feeling is that that's coming from a place where our traditional school discipline policies have reflected a punitive approach, just like our legal system. They've been modeled on the legal system, and we kind of ignore the fact that these are still just kids, and really we have a chance to teach them about how to behave and how to connect with other people. So changing that mindset has also been very difficult for some of us. So I think those are probably, well, the other piece is at the administrative level, kind of spreading the love, because it does take a lot more time. And this happened at Santa Barbara Junior High. We tend to think that we can do more than we can do sometimes. And so quickly, APs and principals can become overwhelmed if we don't have a really firm process chart and people that are capable of stepping in. So as we move forward, something that we are looking at is really trying to leverage our counseling departments more than we have this year to help share the burden. Schools that are having success and feeling comfortable have been using their counseling departments more and more to solve student-to-student problems, so the administrators can really focus on problems that are more student-to-teacher or student-to-class. And then another issue that has arisen is that restorative approaches needs to be viewed as not just a supplement to discipline, but a supplement to classroom management as well. And we need to consciously incorporate this into the beginning of the school year. And we, as teachers, need to be much more intentional about how we develop our classroom culture. We need to really move away from the idea that when students come into my class, they should know how to be students. And there's validity to that. They've been in school for a long time, but they don't necessarily know how to be students in my class.
Okay.
So those are some of the major things that have come up.
And for the benefit of members of the public that might be watching this at some point, you talked about the big five in terms of student actions that would likely result in a suspension. And can you just lay those out so members of the public understand what would still get a student sent home?
Well, yes, absolutely. So possession of drugs, under the influence, selling, assault, weapons on campus, those are Either
Not
immediate-
negotiable?
Yeah, non-negotiable. So that's now.
They're a shall in the ed code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, is the plan next year to roll this up to the 2 other high schools?
So moving forward with our plan this